he's working with them. And Mr. Crisafulli was the one who called to see if he could actually work on some of the projects based on our legislative priorities.
Okay.
So
Okay. Well,
there we go.
okay. Thank you.
Thank
Moving
you
on.
for your support on that.
Okay. Moving on. Item number 20. This is going to be a proposed ordinance reporting on this. Mr. Conley.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a short PowerPoint presentation associated with this, and given the other items that are still on the agenda, I'll try and make this short. At the November 26, 24 City Council meeting, Council gave myself and Ms. Lamb direction to provide information and options for further regulations within conduct at city parks and within city rights of way, and enforcement of such regulations. And so I wanted to show you the memo that's in the packet has a brief summary of existing parks regulations. If we can go to the next slide. So these are some existing regulations within city parks, within Chapter 42 of City Code. Regulates things such as alcohol use, when the park is open and closed, prohibits sleeping in the parks from sunset to sunrise, cooking food except where there are proper parks facilities, damaging parks properties, camping unless authorized by the parks director, erecting certain temporary structures, unreasonably disturbing or interfering with legitimate uses, and other such things. So it's just a brief overview of what City Code generally already says. From input from City Council at that November meeting, one of the items that there was a specific request for was a clarification and a definition of what camping means within this existing camping prohibition. So if we can go to the next slide. And from the memo and the packet, in reviewing other municipal codes, both within the state of Florida and elsewhere, there are plenty of other municipal codes that have a more specific definition of camping within those codes to inform the public and everyone what camping is and what type of activity is prohibited within those areas. And so this proposed definition, which describes more than one of these following activities when it reasonably appears, given the totality of the circumstances, that a person is using a park facility or park ground for a temporary living accommodation, right, including sleeping or preparing to sleep, including the presence of bedding or pillow for the purpose of sleeping, erecting or using a tent or other type of temporary shelter, storage of personal property or belongings, whether attended or unattended, and or making use of a fire, heating, cooking, and other things, right? And the totality of the circumstances also includes the length of time that that's happening and whether it seems to be in the ordinary use of the park or not. So again, this is a proposed definition for camping that could be added to Chapter 42-1 to then better inform everyone interested what the camping prohibition means within Chapter 42. I'm happy to either move on with this presentation, or if you'd like to ask me questions as we're going along, I'm happy to field those as well. So stop me at any point that you have a question. So this was one specific item where there was council concern and an attempt to address that concern through a proposal. Again, this is not in ordinance form at the moment. I'm trying to get council input and council direction on what solutions, what type of action is appropriate to add language to city code. And so I'll take this input tonight and come back to you with more formal ordinance language. The next item that was of some concern to city council was evidence of people storing their personal belongings, particularly in an unattended fashion within city parks. There's already language in Chapter 36 of City Code dealing with some of this to a certain extent. But again, in attempts to address council's concerns, there's an opportunity to define what unattended storage of personal property means. And it would be to place or keep personal property upon a park facility or park grounds and to leave it unattended for a particular time frame. 30 minutes is just an example, right? We could discuss what that time frame looks like, and then we could again add another prohibition within section 42-22 prohibiting the unattended storage of personal property within city parks and parks grounds to make sure that this activity and people placing their stuff and walking away from it was no longer occurring. Other possible regulations for further regulating conduct within city parks could be.
Adam, on
Yes.
the storage, since you told me to stop you, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Question on the unattended, totally get that for storage of property. What does a, I guess, a code, or what does a penalty, or what does something look like when you're saying attended? Like, and now I'm talking about like, and just so we could give a visual example, or what I'm assuming you're trying to refer to is folks who have like a shopping cart, all of their belongings, a tarp over, like that is attended personal property that they're carrying with them throughout their journey during the day. What does, in your vision of a code, what does that look like as far as like a penalty? Is it just like, hey, move along? Or, because that's what I'm trying to figure out what you're trying to get at with this recommendation.
Well, penalties in and of themselves a different portion of the discussion, right?
Okay,
So
got it, yeah.
so for every regulation, theoretically,
Yeah.
all possible penalties up to and including arrest are theoretically available for any violation of these codes. So
Okay, I was
I'm not
just
trying.
proposing one for that.
No,
Yeah,
well,
yeah, yeah.
I'm not proposing. I'm not necessarily proposing different penalties
Yeah.
for each different
Okay.
regulation, right?
Okay.
That's very much going to be based on the totality of circumstances as
Sure.
city staff are encountering these issues. So no, right.
Then on the converse, to get in behind penalties, when you're talking about an individual who has a shopping cart of all their belongings that's traveling with them, or in this case, they're stagnant in a location, do we have legal, like, if you were to create this code, do we have legal standing to move said individual for a reason like it? Does that actually is something that's possible under state law?
Sure. And again, that I think that goes to some of the language later in my memo and other discussions we've had of, much as these are options available to city council, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that I think there is some legal risk associated with adopting some of these things and continuing to expand the regulations and prohibitions of conduct in public places.
Okay. Yep. Like I said, I just wanted to clarify specifically on the attended piece. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
I believe Ms. Hanley has a
Ms.
question.
Hanley, go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, I have back on page 391, on chapter 42, erecting or using a temporary shelters in the park. And I'm thinking of how many times people it gets hot here very easily, and some of these parks don't have sun, and people bring out those little portable cabanas. That would be this, correct?
So again, in trying to define camping for purposes of chapter 42, I have tried with all my might to describe scenarios that seem to exceed the circumstances of the Little League soccer event with pop-up tents and coolers where they're there for a period of time, have their event, and leave. And so again, right, the underlying intent, and if we can go back a slide, Kevin. So before the lists of A through D, the language here of where does it reasonably appear, given the totality of circumstances, that a person is using a park facility or park's ground for living accommodation purposes rather than for its intended recreation purposes or other things, right? So I am trying best as I can to be not inclusive of what would look like a regular park use, and then go beyond to what may not appear to be an ordinary park use, and to start looking like you're using the city park to be your residence for the day or night. So it's not, so again, it requires more than one of these particular activities. It's more than one. So when park staff or the police are seeing people out in the parks, they need to ask themselves, am I seeing two or more of these activities? and do the totality of circumstances make it reasonably appear that the person is attempting to use the park's facilities or grounds for a living accommodation. That's the test. Because if I lower the standard beyond that, then the Little League people putting up pop-up tents are going to violate city code.
That's what I'm, because there's different times you can go to the Jimmy Moore Park and you see on Saturdays and Sundays, you have the main pavilion, but then you have other people have, at 8 o'clock in the morning, people are staking out their territory for the birthday parties there. So, I mean, that's what I want to make sure that we're looking, they're going to be there all day type of thing,
Sure.
they're going to be there.
And so
they're
again,
probably-
so then going back to the vice mayor's point, right? When we're looking at unattended storage of property, the individual with the shopping cart and all their earthly possessions in it is not going to be looked at from a code perspective any differently than the birthday party that all leaves for a half an hour and has left all of their stuff unattended in the park. That's the exact same violation of code.
because we have in different parks, we have those types of situations, and it's like we're going back. Well, you don't dress proper. It's like you don't have the proper dress. You don't have that look.
Yeah,
And
those are some of the circumstances I'm trying to avoid.
All right.
So moving on. Again, if I can go back to the next slide, thank you. Other possible regulations, and again, these are examples that I've seen from other municipalities within the state of Florida and around the nation. I've seen examples of code provisions prohibiting lying down or sleeping on park benches or tables where prohibited by signage. Essentially, prohibiting littering except in proper receptacles. There's some code language to that already, but I'll get to that. I had heard anecdotal evidence of there being laundry activities, including hanging out a significant amount of laundry to dry on park ground and park facilities. That would be something that would be eligible to further regulate and prohibit. Additionally, state law does allow for smoking restrictions, either in the parks in their entirety or in certain areas of the parks. At the time when the Florida legislature adopted 368-209, it was not council's pleasure to entertain that. But again, if circumstances are seeing undesirable conduct or undesirable outcomes, smoking may be an item that's eligible for additional regulation within city parks. If we can go to the next slide. Moving outside of city parks and just going kind of to the city overall, some existing regulations in city code that exist. Chapter 36, Article 2 deals with tangible personal property. It again deals with scenarios where people have either mislaid or abandoned their personal belongings somewhere on public property, whether that's rights of way, parks, other city property. Our code language aligns with existing state law in Chapter 705 on how we have to identify, remove, and administer that lost and abandoned property. In Chapter 40, Article 1 is titled Offenses. It identifies certain activities that are prohibited and the means of enforcement, including city code essentially adopts by reference all state level misdemeanors into city code. But since they're state level misdemeanors, there's also the opportunity to enforce it through those means. Chapter 40 is also where you'll find the trespass language, both for private property and city property. Section 48-83 deals with public littering. It prohibits a person from discarding litter on any public highway, road, street, other rights of way, and other public land, except where there's a proper trash collection. This is again a supplement to a state littering ban at the state level in Chapter 403. And then just from adoption this past October, Section 52-9 for public camping and sleeping prohibits overnight public camping and sleeping on public property, recently adopted in response to what we generally call House Bill 1365. If we can go to the next slide. So options for additional regulations. Again, I heard some language tonight of potentially expanding that public camping and sleeping prohibition. That that's definitely an option. What I would recommend is rather than significantly modifying 52-9, we could add additional language as a separate prohibition, also in Chapter 52, using generally the same definition of camping that I've proposed for Chapter 42. So it's again that totality of circumstances. What are you seeing? Is someone, trying to use the right of way as their place of living accommodation? And again, that wouldn't necessarily be limited to overnight hours, right? It would be an outright prohibition. You cannot camp on city right of way. And that if you did that together with revision to Chapter 42, that would essentially create an even playing field between city parks and other city property on a camping prohibition based on those standards. Separately, I'm going to recommend modifying the enforcement of public littering under Chapter 42-83. Currently, Section 48-86 only allows for enforcement of that public littering standard through the Code Enforcement Board. That's a difficult method of enforcement for individuals who are just outside, littering, dropping things, creating accumulations of trash, particularly in rights of way. And so I would recommend that we council give direction to amend Section 48-86 to make any violations of that public littering provision of code subject to all possible municipal code violation penalties pursuant to Section 1-14. That'll just give us more options in how it gets enforced and be able to potentially address it better. I believe there's one last slide. Nope. So again, sorry. So the slides don't go further into some of the language in the memo. Again, enforcement within city parks, I will say, is likely to the first line of defense is likely to be park staff themselves with a threat of trespass, because our trespass language in Chapter 40 does say that individuals can be trespassed from city parks if they're violating the underlying parks rules. And so when they identify a violation of Chapter 42, there is that opportunity to threaten with trespass. Beyond that, and if it requires escalation, that's when Melbourne Police Department's likely get involved. And then there's further steps. Again, that being said, I will continue to say there are certain aspects of these problems that we are unlikely to be able to arrest our way out of. And so to the extent there are other considerations here, I will ask that you please keep those in mind for other holistic solutions to some of these problems. Happy to answer any questions. Other than that, I'm looking for council direction on some of these proposed ideas for city code.
Real quick, go ahead, Mr. Lucas.
It was 2009, I believe, and the comment came before us to ban smoking in the city parks. And I remember the conversation pretty well. The problem that I had with it, and I'm a reformed smoker, and when I smell it, I go the other way. Or maybe a cigar with a buddy and a scotch maybe every couple of years or something, to celebrate something. But although I do despise the smell, and I know that everybody else does, but most people do too, it's a right to be able to smoke a cigarette or smoke a cigar or a pipe in a park that you're paying taxes for. So that would be the only thing that I see out of this that I would want to back out or have additional conversations about. I just don't want to take away the rights of people who were not writing language to protect other people, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. So the smoking issue, that's the only thing that I would back out. And if you get a consensus to put it in there, then I would ask that you would write to, so that I don't vote against the entire thing just because of the smoking issue. And so it would be presented to, and then you could merge if you needed to, and then another vote for that. That's the only pushback I have. So it's a right of an individual to smoke, drink, drive backwards in their car instead of forwards, that kind of thing. So.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
good. Vice Mayor?
First of all, to your warning on the law enforcement piece, very loud, heard loud and clear. I think we're about to have a very lively workshop over it. But so I want to make sure it's clear to the public and yourself, we are moving on both tandems of that, and I respect that opinion. I appreciate that. Secondly, regarding camping, I noticed that on your options for additional regulations in front of us, so the regulations on attended and unattended property, which Ms. Hanley and myself were talking about. I noticed they're not on here, but it sounds like from your professional recommendation, camping might, the definition change might be a broader way of addressing that, so we're not going too deep. So as long as we change the definition, we may not have to make a code change, and that way, because I don't want us to get too deep. I don't think you want us to get too deep on here, but we're able to start with this definition change perhaps, and then if there's continued issues, we could go into code on personal attended and unattended
I
property.
generally agree that because attended proper storage of attended storage of personal property by itself
Yeah.
is going to be difficult to regulate in a way that isn't over inclusive of basically everyone at the park, right? If
Right.
if you show up at the park with anything other than yourself,
Mhm.
you have attended storage of public property in the city park.
Right.
So yes, I would say I am attempting, because the definition of camping includes storage of property, either attended or unattended. I am attempting to address through the definition of camping scenarios where you may see someone who is establishing an encampment, including the attended storage of their personal property, right? But that alone, I don't think that alone is creating the scenario, right? So yes, I would agree. I am attempting to say where you see people who are in a situation where attended storage of personal property is a component of what starts to look like an encampment. Let's focus on the camping definition, the camping prohibition. And then separately, where you see people storing their personal property in a parks pavilion and then walking away to another facility, separate issue that we're trying to address. So I generally agree and think that you've hit where my mind was going with drafting.
And I appreciate that. I want to make sure you know I appreciate that. And then secondly, I noticed you had some discussions about signage. Do you need direction for us on signage, or would that be something different? I just want to make sure that that's included in this.
Well, again, right, with general direction from council on, like, yes, we want, we like this definition of camping, bring it back. We like a proposed regulation on lying down or sleeping in the parks, right? All of that'll come back to you in more formal ordinance language, and I'll propose that language, and we can hammer out the specifics of it at first and second reading. And again, the signage component is, again, the more we can warn people of potential code violations, I think the better that the experience that city staff is going to have in enforcing it.
When I'm making a motion on this, looking at options for additional regulation in front of us, do I need to add something extra for this, lying down and sleeping on benches and things of that nature? Or do you kind of again, I don't think that any of us up here are going to go down and read line by line all 5 of these items. What would you need from us in order to make sure that's
Yeah,
included?
and I don't even need it necessarily in
Yeah.
formal motion form,
Okay.
right? If there's consensus of, like, yes, we
Yeah.
all like this, yes, and
Yeah.
so if we want to do it item by item on, do I have direction to move forward with this definition of camping, yes or no?
Right.
And then we can go on to which of these 4 or 5 other possible regulations that we've talked about, or are there other items that you want to discuss, right? So again, I'm just looking for input and consensus from council tonight on direction to bring you back an ordinance. So it need not be in the most formal fashion.
All right, and so when we go through it, I'm just going to request you and the mayor, when we go through that, if we can do the line by line, I think that's very helpful for everybody. Lastly, before I relinquish this, is when it comes to these park benches and things of that nature, this is a little bit tangent, a little bit off, so I apologize. And I think this will probably be for the city manager. One of our speakers had mentioned, and I'd heard over the weekend, that we may be removing park benches, maybe pavilions, but at least park benches at our parks over by the auditorium and Fee Avenue and things of that nature. Is that true? That's happening? And just any update on that? Because it might be happened before my time.
We have over, and I'll say the last year, it maybe has been longer than a year. Cindy's shaking her head, yes, so it's been longer than a year, removing benches in the downtown area. That's sort of been in conjunction with complaints we've received downtown and the Melbourne Main Street, making those requests. And, when they're right in front of businesses and they're causing issues there. So we have removed some benches in the downtown area. When I say some, I believe we've removed all but the ones in Campbell Park. There might be one other one. We did just recently remove a pavilion. It was in the weekly, a photo of that was in the weekly report.
Yeah.
However, that pavilion was in very bad condition. It was in disrepair. And the decision whether to repair it / replace it versus, it didn't make sense financially to be putting money into that pavilion. It was so gone.
Yeah, but in regards to like our Veterans Memorial Park over by Liberty Bell Museum or our park over by the auditorium, as far as you're aware, we're not removing those benches that you know of.
I am not aware that we've removed any of those benches.
There was a concern there was
I might
going
have to
to
put
be.
my glasses on. I don't know if Nikki's still back there.
Nikki shaking her head.
We haven't removed those benches? Okay.
And we're not
I-
planning to, like I said, just trying
No.
to dispel rumors and things like that.
No.
Perfect. Great. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Mayor,
Okay. Yes.
we've had a lot of discussion tonight on homelessness, and I just want to sort of connect the dots because I mentioned this earlier in our discussion. So for the next meeting, we're talking about putting Providence Place on the agenda. Then we also talked about adding some other homeless discussion topics. And in light of that, I also want to commend the city attorney, Adam, for doing a wonderful job of taking what we asked him to do and provide at least as a starting point as we try to comprehensively deal with, the vision of homelessness. But I just don't want us to go down too many rabbit holes if we need to make sure that we're comprehensively moving the ball on the big picture and then say, hey, we'll get this workshop. Oh, we did this, we did these things. So I want to make sure that the point of what we're going to provide him tonight to move further, then what's going to be next as we're solving these various items. So.
Okay.
And I think, Mayor,
All right, good, sir.
in conversation within council, I think it's pretty clear what you've just pointed out is that each and every one is a bucket unto itself, and that they'll converge eventually to be a mechanism to follow that gives us an opportunity,
Yep.
gives our law enforcement, gives our code enforcement, et cetera, specific guidelines to follow,
Yep.
given this challenge, this challenge, this challenge.
And
So,
improve us from the
but to-
situation that we're in.
But to your point, and it's an excellent point to make sure that we keep our mind in
Yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Hanley, please.
Okay. I'm looking, I'm thinking of Jimmy Moore, not anywhere else,
Yeah.
just because that seems to be, they have a lot of kids parks and all that. And like I said, there's one big pavilion and there's grills there. And let's say there is a lot of times on a Saturday when it's nice and that you'll have other places. And they're talking about the grills, like cooking there. And like the big pavilion, you do have the grill there, but you're not there's open areas. And like I said, the other one, people would bring in their little tabletop grills and tables and all that. If we, on section 40, chapter 42 of this part, it says that you can't cook there in this situation. Is that, so, I mean, would we be I don't want, we're back to the families going to the park.
So that's an existing restriction within city parks within section 42-22. There's an existing code prohibition on cooking food except where proper parks facilities exist. Beyond that, if you're talking about the definition of camping, the fact that there is making use of a fire for purpose of heating, cooking, or using other flame, grill, portable stove, I will say the list of 4 things is always modified by, does it reasonably appear, given the totality of the circumstances, that the individuals are trying to make use of the park's grounds as a living accommodation?
I mean, because I want to make that clear so that when we walk in there, that people can still do that rather than have somebody say you can't.
Well, technically by code now, they're not allowed to do that.
Well, wait a minute.
So if you want, if there is
It's
separate,
real, but
if there
it's
is
not-
separate direction on changing the other provisions of the existing chapter, section 42-22, happy to take that input as well.
There's families that do that at the Jimmy Moore. I'm using Jimmy Moore because that's kind of right in my little circle of life there. And a lot of people do use it because they have the 4 and 5-year-olds so that the kids can go out and run
Right.
around and play games out there at birthday parties and family parties and stuff like that. Like I'm going to use at Easter time, you'll see families
Right.
going out there and you having a big family event using the park to have
Right.
dinner or lunch.
We have one public speaker. I'd like to bring them up real quick. Bill Miller, William Miller. Maybe we can move forward after that. Yeah. How you doing, sir?
I live in downtown Melbourne on Melbourne Avenue. My concern in this
Can-
conversation,
Microphone. Thank you, sir.
oh, thank you. My concern was some of the footnotes at the end of the attorney's presentation where he talked about difficulty in arresting people and the police shouldn't be around arresting people. And it seemed like to me he was dissuading or discouraging the police from enforcing things. And I wanted to see if that could be revisited and reinforced for the police department that they can bust these people and get them away from the community when they're misbehaving.
Can,
Go
I'll
ahead.
take a stab at that.
Yeah.
So our Parks Department they're typically they're in the parks. And so they, if we have these additional regulations, they'll probably be our first line of communication with the people out there. Sometimes they have success, sometimes they won't. As the city attorney said, one of the things that can happen is if they don't move along or they don't clean up, then we can trespass them from the parks. If things escalate, the Parks Department and I will call the police. And then the police come in and can enforce that way. But we do not have a whole unit of our police department that are just going to focus on these activities. And that's why it's a two-prong approach.
I'd have to question what you just said, ma'am, because the Parks Department doesn't have the resources to do that. They can barely cut the grass and pick up the palm fronds. Come on, who in the Parks Department is going to do that?
As they see people, as they're out there cutting the grass, they see people and
No,
they move
don't.
them
They cut the
along.
grass and move on because their workload is so over the top
Okay.
that I think we've answered the issue. Nothing's going to get done.
Okay. Thank you. All right. That's the last public speaker. So bring back to council. Any direction?
Mayor.
Good, sir.
As I said, I'm pretty good with everything that you've talked about here, except for that one portion. If you can do a workaround on that, if the rest of the council feels that that's important for them, if you do the workaround on that for me, then I would appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
So is there a consensus on the proposed definition of camping? And I'll say both for within city parks and for additional regulation for camping within public rights of way. Okay. So from a camping perspective, I will bring back proposed ordinance language to that effect. On defining and prohibiting unattended storage of personal property in city parks, is there a level of comfort? Kevin, can we go back one more? Here, are we comfortable with the definition and a prohibition within chapter 42 to define and prohibit unattended storage of personal property within city parks? Seeing head nods, looking for consensus. Okay, I think I have consensus
Yeah, I
there.
think based on your definition of attended versus unattended, yeah, I see.
Of other possible regulations within city parks, is there consensus or further discussion on prohibiting lying down or sleeping on park benches and tables where prohibited by signage? Okay, I see consensus. Is there consensus on prohibiting essentially littering except in proper receptacles within?
Yes.
Okay, that's a pretty easy one.
That would just go by point.
Is there consensus on prohibiting laundry activities on parks grounds?
Yes.
Okay. Does not appear that I know Mr. LaRusso has an objection. Is there otherwise a direction to from city council to bring back a possible smoking prohibition? And again, it's not an all or nothing, right? The statute allows for a language to prohibit smoking within portions of city parks. So if it's a more individualized discussion of there's a particular area of this park where smoking should be prohibited, there's a different particular area of another park where smoking should be prohibited, right? So just please keep that in mind. It's not a binary yes, no.
Near playground, not near playground.
Right. Or, we could look at a map and go,
And is there
make the
signage-
box here, right?
Is there signage that reflects that? That's the point of this?
Again, based on council's direction of we are interested in an individualized discussion of where smoking might be prohibited within parks, then the outline of that area could then be where signage is located.
Yeah,
So,
well then, Mayor?
Yeah.
Adam, that's not what you said, but that's not what the point says.
Right.
It says within public parks. Now you're within the boundaries. Now you're talking about.
right,
those
within
areas.
within
Areas.
the
Now, if you
boundaries.
Bring that back, then that's something to consider, but banning across the board in every park and every possibility, that I would say no.
It sounds like a more expansive issue, and so I
Yeah.
think it's probably one that we table for these purposes. And if we want to discuss it more at a later point and have this broader discussion, let's have it.
Okay.
Then if we can go to the next slide, one more. So again, I've already received direction on the first item. And so then just, is there consensus on modifying enforcement of public littering within public property to expand the enforcement tool?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Then I have my direction. I am happy to bring back an ordinance in 2 weeks on the 28th, although that may be tough that'll be fine for advertising purposes. So to Councilmember Smith's point, if you'd like to see all of this in conjunction with discussion items of other things, that's fine. I will take your direction on when you would like to see these come back, with the first opportunity being the 28th.
Okay,
Okay,
we're good?
28th,
Yeah.
yeah.
very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep on moving. All right, so now we're moving on to item number 21. This is fluoridation of the drinking water.
Jenny and Adam too.
All right, okay.
Jenny and Adam too.
Yeah, and if you move this down, move that down.
Jenny and Adam also.
All right, and I will be presenting this. I'll start by saying the city of Melbourne has been adding fluoride to its drinking water since 1966. And this is because it was recommended by the State Board of Health. And that's where we got to where we are. And again, as a result, the addition of fluoride to the drinking water today is a practice rather than a city code requirement. With more and more information coming up with the issues of the hydrofluorosilicic acid or fluoride, it's called sometimes. Now we have new science. We have and we also have the State Surgeon General, Dr. Joseph Ladapo, issued a community water fluoridation guidance. Today he announced, he now announced guidance recommending against community water fluoridation due to the neuropsychiatric risk associated with fluoride exposure. And all council, you did get a copy of this, plus some other additional information in the back on some EPA information. Fluoride is a natural occurring chemical compound presented in groundwater, fresh and salt water, rainwater, soil, plants, and foods. And this came right directly from the state website. Community water fluoridation is a process of adjusting the amount of fluoride in drinking water to a level recommended to prevent tooth decay. Historically, community water fluoridation was considered to be a method to systematically, through injection, deliver fluoride to all community members. However, currently many municipalities across the U.S. and several European countries, including Australia, Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Norway, and Sweden, have eliminated water fluoridation. Today, fluoride is widely available from multiple sources, including topical fluoride, such as toothpaste, mouthwashes, and fluoride applications by dental providers. Evidence shows fluoride strengthens teeth, making them more decay resistant. However, additional research is being conducted to review the impacts of overall fluoride exposure in the population. Floridians should be aware of safety concerns related to the systematic fluoride exposure, and there's a list here. Adverse effects in children reducing IQ, cognitive impairment, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Increased neurobehavioral problems in children whose mothers ingested fluoride during pregnancy. Accumulation of fluoride in the pineal gland, causing sleep cycle disturbance. Skeletal fluorosis, which could increase the risk of bone fracture and other potential risks in adolescent girls. And potential suppression of the thyroid gland by inhibiting iodine absorption. Due to the risks associated with fluoride exposure, particularly in pregnant women and children, and the wide available alternate sources of fluoride for dental health, the State Surgeon General recommends against community water fluoridation. The Florida Department of Health, who initially back years ago recommended water fluoridation, who now is not supporting it, strongly supports oral and overall health through operation expansion of school-based preventive dental services, county health department dental clinics, which provide dental services to communities, screening and treatment referral in preschool and school settings, provider education, including training and oral health service delivery for those whose special health care needs, promoting of healthy habits, which adds emphasis on a reduction in sugar consumption through oral health education to community, providing oral health care supplies to community partners, and providing tobacco and vaping cessation resources and services. It is clear more research is necessary to address safety concerns regarding community water fluoridation, says our State Surgeon General. The previously considered benefits of community water fluoridation does not outweigh the current known risks, especially for special populations like pregnant women and children.
Mhm.
Now, I spoke at a conference call with our Surgeon General today, and he wanted me to relay to the council that he definitely supports us ceasing and that more and more information is coming out. I was on this, I believe this years ago, and I haven't changed my stance. But now more and more doctors, if you look at the emails that we get,
Mhm.
more and more people, they don't want this in their water. They don't want to be mass medicated. I had a doctor call me today, and she said, she had a good point. She said, many people have a vitamin D deficiency, and depending on the studies you look at, it could be 30 to 60%. And she said, the city, we don't add vitamin D in the water. I mean, that's not appropriate. And again, that's where I stand. I think we should cease this practice immediately and watch the science and follow the science, like the doctor said. I mean, there's more and more coming out. So I wanted to give this information to the council. I'd like the council's direction on this and to follow our State Surgeon General.
Mayor?
Vice Mayor.
So I had been doing my research on this and talking to a lot of groups. This isn't a, what would you call it? An indication of where I'm at. I want to hear what the public has to say about everything. But the Brevard Dental Association president had asked if I might give him a little bit of my time to just speak and give a small presentation for 5 minutes, just as you gave yours. Would that be all right if I call him up? All right. Would you like to come up?
My name is Michael Hosking. I'm the current president of the Brevard County Dental Society. If it's okay, I'm going to have Dr. Yoshita Patel do a little presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Yoshita Patel Hosking. I am a board certified pediatric dentist. I have a master's in public health and community dentistry, and I am the past president of the Florida Academy of Pediatric Dentistry and a current board member of the Space Coast Health Foundation. We're all here because we care. So first and foremost, I respect both sides, and I'm here to try to give a very quick presentation on a subject that's very nuanced. So I'm going to speak specifically to the safety and efficacy of community water fluoridation and other fluoridation options that we have for our children in the community. What is fluoride? Fluoride is an ion of fluorine, which is a naturally occurring element in our soil, water, and our rocks. Some countries add it to salt, some add it to water, and some have to decrease the amount that is naturally occurring to make it the optimal range. So when hydrofluorosilicic acid is added to water, it immediately dissociates into fluoride, silica, and water. Silica is sand, and that's normal in our water. And there's no residual chemical after this reaction takes place. That is the chemical reaction. And when it is created from phosphate rock, it's the same process that's used to make phosphate for sodas. Sodas are created by a byproduct of phosphate mining. And this is hydrofluorosilicic acid. It is scrubbed, it is cleaned, it is perfectly safe to add to water. So when babies are in mother's tummy, at 16 weeks in utero, that is when calcification of the baby teeth occurs. So this is happening while the mother is pregnant. When the fluoride is added into the bone of the teeth, the hydroxyapatite of the teeth, it creates what's called fluoroapatite. Fluoroapatite is what helps prevent cavities over a child's lifetime. So as the baby then is born at 6 months, we see that first tooth, and those teeth are strengthened because of the fluoride that was incorporated in utero. At birth, the teeth then also have fluoroapatite. Kids, toddlers, they ingest fluoridated water, and then that is incorporated into the enamel matrix, which makes it stronger over their lifetime. So with hydroxyapatite or normal tooth structure, you have demineralization or dissolution of enamel or acid attack occurring at pH of 5.5. When you have fluoroapatite, it is significantly stronger, and demineralization occurs at 4.3 pH, which is much lower. The use of fluoride, what are the benefits? We use it in toothpaste, yes, and it's used topically in that way. We use it in mouthwashes, yes, that is topical. But there is a significant impact systemically that we have to consider. The ideal concentration is 0.7 parts per million, which is very important as we discuss studies. The risks of use shown currently at 0.7 parts per million are 0. So we talk about fluoride interventions. We talk about community water fluoridation like we're talking about today. Fluoride varnish, which is placed in our dental offices. Toothpaste and mouth rinses containing fluoride of varying concentration. The only thing that can impact the widest range of people for the least amount of money is community water fluoridation. So that's something we have to consider. The cumulative dose of all of these things is always considered when we're discussing optimal levels. That's why it was decreased from 1 part per million to 0.7 many years ago. Not everybody has access to care. Not everybody has access to education, and we have to discuss that. Why are we concerned? There's misinformation, which is going to be on both sides. There's fear of chemicals, both sides. And there's distrust in public health initiatives. That's both sides. A lot of us have that fear and anxiety about what's real. And that's what we're here to talk about. What we have to talk about is the margin of safety. Fluoride is carefully regulated, and the concentration is adjusted to be optimal in any application. Anything can kill you. Vitamin C can kill you. Oxygen can kill you. Anything can when it's the correct dosage, but you have to dose it to the appropriate margin of safety. Now, this National Toxicology Program report that a lot of people have referenced, they studied areas where the fluoride concentration was 1.5 parts per million, which is more than double what is optimal. So you're comparing apples to oranges. You're comparing something at a much higher dosage in its margin of safety that is not safe to something that is very, very safe. And not many people have that type of exposure in America. 99.4% of us are never exposed to that. So you're comparing studies that from 19 countries, not America, and you're trying to take their 1.5 parts per million and apply 0.7 parts per million in the United States to that study. It doesn't work. That's not real. Mass medication argument. I understand that we want choices in our healthcare, in our life, and everything, but we have to balance that with societal benefits. And that limited access to care in Florida is a huge issue, and I'm going to go over that next. But additives in foods, we use iodine, we use folate, and these are all public health measures to help us. So the controversy of fluorosis is something that really needs to be addressed because skeletal fluorosis occurs at 10 milligrams per liter, 10 parts per million. That is not 0.7. And so we have to think about the dose and the exposure. The little pie chart at the bottom shows you the amount of severe dental fluorosis that we see. I've never seen it in my career. I've been doing this 17 years. I've never seen severe dental fluorosis. I have seen mild cases of fluorosis. My husband has fluorosis. It's not a problem in very, very mild amounts. Most developed countries don't fluoridate water. That is false. There's salt, there's milk, there's other ways that people in different countries can fluoridate, and they do. So we have to look at all the alternatives that are used and why. There's current infrastructures in other countries that cannot support community water fluoridation. They can't fluoridate the water, so they fluoridate other things. So you have to be equal in how we assess these. In Brevard, we have a significant access to care issue. And you'll see in that first chart, kids in Florida less than 14 years old seek dental care through the ER at the highest rates in our country. That's abysmal. Kids are losing school. That's the most common disease in children is caries. I see it every day. See, my youngest patient that's ever had a cavity was 14 months old. There's a 2-year-old. I extracted 10 teeth out of 20 because of cavities. If you'd like to spend a day at my office and see what I see, please do. I welcome you. It's heartbreaking. The incidence in cavities doubled when fluoridation was removed from Calgary, Canada. They are now replacing it. And I sent you all that report from the city council member that was there when they removed it and is now encouraging everybody to put it back in. So let's learn from our mistakes and see what other countries have done. The study in Calgary showed in Edmonton nearby, the cavity rate stayed the same. When they removed the fluoride from Calgary, it doubled in that same amount of time. We need to look at those studies very closely and think about that before we make these decisions. So when you look at the cost of community water fluoridation versus the cost of dentistry, an argument that I hear all the time is, oh, big fluoride, there's lots of money there. There isn't. We're here because we care. We want prevention. We don't want cavities. Fluoride is safe, effective, and inexpensive when used in the optimal quantities. And we have to be very clear in what that optimal quantity is. And I always support research. Yes, I think more research has to be done because it's important for us to understand, is it really safe? Right now, the preponderance of evidence has shown us it is safe at 0.7 parts per million. When you remove it, it increases cavity risk in our most vulnerable population, the lowest socioeconomic status, Blacks, Hispanics, and children. So I'm here to speak for my patients, 3,500 of them that believe in fluoride. And I hope that you really think about this before you take this to a vote because it's very important and near and dear to many of us. So please stand up if you are in favor of community water fluoridation. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you, Mr. Newman, for allowing us to share.
Thank you. Thank you. And we do have some public speakers. And before we start, I just want to bring up a couple things that she make a good point. Number one, there's no question that fluoride, if used correctly, does help. However, one thing I heard that fluoride was clean. We don't use clean fluoride. We use hydroxyphosphoric acid. And if anybody reads the material safety data sheet, which is available for any chemical, especially dangerous chemical, lead, arsenic, all this in the acid we put, makes no sense. And again, we talk about the dose. You can't control the dose when you can't control how much someone's drinking it. I mean, that's common sense. And again, why are we putting, please don't, I'm sorry, please no clapping and stuff. And I understand, but it's across the board, but thank you. But we can't control the dose. And then again, anybody should have the right of whether they take this or not, or they're ingesting it. I mean, that's consent. And for us to mass medicate, again, we got here because the Florida Department of Health back in the 60s said we should do it. Now our Surgeon General and the Florida Department of Health says we shouldn't. So again, that's what I look at. And again, years ago, it wasn't very popular, but now you'll see doctors saying it. The new studies and the JMA, I mean, the information is out there. And let's hear some of the speakers. So we're going to move forward.
Mayor, just a procedural thing before you get into public speakers. We're coming up on 11 p.m.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
And so if you want to do the motion to extend the
Yeah, I'd
time
like to
frame
make a motion
before.
that we extend council past 11. You'll make the motion? Okay, and I'll make the motion. I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I know y'all want to say no, but.
Extend it to what time?
Then the motion passes to extend the meeting. At 11 PM, we must have we have to have a motion and a passing that we extend it, the meeting. So thank you, City Attorney. How many?
50.
50. So since we have 50, we're going to scale it down. Yeah. We're going to scale it down.
Can I take my vote back?
Now, City Attorney, we have 50, so I'd like to put it down to maybe a minute, 2 minutes. I hate to regulate, I've never regulated time, but
I mean, by code, they're allowed 3 minutes.
all right, let's do it. I mean, we'll take a break, but you know what? This is very important. And if you're all gonna come out one way or the other, I mean, everybody should be heard, and that's the way it should be. So we'll start out, let's try to do this. Katie Bernard, followed by Susan Antune.
Mayor, 2.5 hours is what, with 50 times.
That's why we get paid the big bucks, sir.
That's right.
What? When?
Okay,
You missed it, you didn't get a raise.
Katie Bernard, followed by Susan Anton. And if you could be ready on deck, so is there,
We're still not as
Katie
bad as Palm
Bernard?
Bay.
Some people may have left.
huh? Okay, Katie Bernard left, okay. Okay, Susan Anton, no, go ahead, ma'am. Miss Anton? Go ahead, Miss Anton, ma'am, you'll be next.
Good
Susan Anton.
evening. My name is Susan Anton. I've been a voter and a citizen of Melbourne since 1979. I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, which had naturally occurring water fluoridation. Actually, it was 6 times the optimal level. And I have personally benefited from water fluoridation. Despite drinking Kool-Aid made with sugar and local tap water throughout my entire childhood, I have no cavities. As the mother of 5 children and the grandmother of 9 grandchildren, I strongly support optimal water fluoridation. I believe the science that overwhelmingly states optimal water fluoridation is safe and beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Katie Bernard, followed by Miss James Antune. Is that your husband, James? Okay, okay. Katie Bernard.
Hello, friends and member of the council. My name is Katie. I stand before you to challenge the reasoning behind dosing the public water supply with chemicals like fluoride and chlorine, both of which are considered GRAS, generally recognized as safe in small amounts. But what does GRAS really mean, and what is a small amount? A company can conduct its own research, compile findings, and submit them to organizations like the World Health Organization and the FDA as proof of safety without facing meaningful scrutiny. Let's look at Monsanto, a company notorious for falsifying data. Their history with misleading advertising, particularly with Roundup, highlights the consequences of powerful entities manipulating public information. When the truth is compromised, public trust is shattered, and the results are devastating. Fluoride is often praised for its dental benefits, but excessive amounts of fluoride causes fluorosis of the bones and teeth. What's less publicized is how fluoride exposure is linked to reduced IQ in children by crossing the blood-brain barrier. I distinctly remember going to the dentist as a child where I received a bubblegum flavored fluoride treatment and a mouth guard. I was told to hold it in my mouth for 3 minutes, unaware of the sublingual absorption of this toxin was harming my brain. If people are concerned about their teeth, they can choose to use fluoride products. What alarms me is that toothpaste containing fluoride has a warning to call poison control if swallowed even a small amount. This raises a fundamental question about safety and informed consent. I, for one, do not consent to being a filter for an industrial byproduct labeled fluoride. Now, let's talk about chlorine. It's a toxic chemical that we are exposed to daily. When you take a hot shower, the steam you inhale contains chlorine. If your shower lasts more than 5 minutes, you're essentially in a gas chamber. For a simple experiment, take 2 glasses of tap water, stick your hand in one, test both. You'll find the water your hand touched has less fluoride and chlorine than untouched. And yet we bathe our children and tubs of water filled with these chemicals several times a week. How can this be considered healthy? I can go on, but I urge you to conduct your own deep dive research and make your decisions that prioritize your health and safety for yourselves and your family. And for the fact that fluoride comes from the phosphorus industry here in Florida, it's scraped from the stacks.
Yeah,
That's
scrubber.
not natural fluoride. Natural fluoride comes from the ground. Yes, we are supposed to have all chemicals, all, not excessive amounts. And when nothing is controlled, when you're told to drink 8 glasses of water a day, when there's 7 parts per million or whatever in each glass, then you brush your teeth twice a day for 2 minutes with the sublingual absorption, then you rinse your mouth with it, it sticks in your bones. It takes time. We are a filter for an industrial product, and I, for one, do not consent to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, James Antoon, followed by Tim Thomas.
Good evening, Mayor Alfrey and Councilman. Thank you for allowing us to speak. I'm a dentist, a periodontist. I also have a background in research and academia. During my 45-year dental career, I participated in dozens of statewide and local dental missions of mercy, and I also did Head Start examinations for over 10 years. So I've personally seen the devastation that can occur from cavities in children and adults. You already know that nearly every health institution in North America supports community water fluoridation after the studies that you earlier quoted and after Dr. Latipo's statements in reference to some of these outlier studies. I wanted to share my perspective, but also the perspective of my son, who's a pediatrician, a Melbourne native, and who provides critical care and research at a major medical school. He has a public health degree. He has a medical degree. And for those who are always talking about toxicology, he has a PhD in toxicology and pharmacology and over 100 publications on medication safety. After the Palm Bay decision, which he read on the internet, he called me and said, basically, imagine a world where a simple, cost-effective measure to prevent pain, missed school, serious medical complications, and even deaths is suddenly taken away. That's exactly what we're talking about here. Tablets and rinses are not a substitute for community water fluoridation. There are over 7,000 studies that show the benefits of optimal fluoridation. So it's reasonable to question the very few studies that oppose it, that are many times conducted in third world countries where fluoride concentrations are not just 2 times the rate, but in some cases 10 times the concentration of US standards. These outlier studies are not ignored, even though many times they're published in journals that are not indexed in our medical libraries. They're carefully evaluated by scientists, and they have largely been refuted. In 2025, the overwhelming medical consensus is that community water fluoridation is safe and beneficial. And again, my son's words, he works at a large children's hospital. He treats young patients admitted for jaw infections, blood infections, brain abscesses, and other serious complications caused by tooth decay. Partly because of water fluoridation, these conditions have become less common, showcasing the powerful impact of this very simple and inexpensive public health measure. Please consider this in the 75 years of history of the benefits and safety of optimal water fluoridation. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Thomas, followed by Ken Germain, followed by Dr. Lee Sheldon.
Again, good evening, Council. And of course, 2019, I was on the City Council when we had this last vote on whether to take fluoridation out. And I was part of the 4 that voted in favor of keeping fluoridation. But I'll tell you, since that vote, I have just been overwhelmed with information that I get up on the internet from doctors, from people that are my friends that show me that, again, fluoridation that impacts IQ as well as causing ADHD in kids. And I tell you, I've been a school teacher for 14 years. And the amount of ADHD that we're seeing in these students now is off the chart. And it goes across all ethnicities, Black kids, white kids, Hispanic kids, mulatto kids, males, females, social economic, statures, poor, rich, medium. It impacts all of them. And so a logical explanation for this maybe it's because of the fluoridation in the water. We got to take a look at that. And so again, because of that, guys, I really think that y'all should vote tonight, take fluoridation out of the water. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ken Germain, followed by Dr. Lee Sheldon.
Good evening, Council, Mayor Alfrey. I'm Ken Germain, Melbourne Beach, Florida, formerly of Cleveland, Ohio. My wife and I have drank fluoridated water for 50 years. My wife does not have a thyroid gland anymore. Had to be removed. I'm on medication also because I have thyroid problems. It's the only medication I take. The thyroid gland requires iodine. And if you don't get enough iodine in your thyroid gland, it looks for something else in your body. And that something else is fluoride. And when the fluoride gets in to your thyroid, you're going to have problems and you're going to be on medication. I know many, many people that are on thyroid medication, including council members right here. Okay, moving on. I have here 80 pages of a decision in the United States District Court, Northern District of California. The Food and Water Watch Incorporated plaintiffs against the United States Environmental Protection Agency. In 2016, Congress amended the Toxic Substance Control Act, empowering United States citizens to petition the Environmental Protection Agency and consider filing suit, which this group, Food and Water Watch, did file this on September 24th of 2024. Among the many chemical substances and mixtures which are consistently being developed and produced, there are some whose manufacturing, process, distribution, and commerce, use of disposal may present an unreasonable risk of injury to health and environment. Jumping to the final court decision, plaintiffs have met their burden in establishing by a preponderance of evidence the community of water fluoridation at 0.7 milligrams a liter presents an unreasonable risk of injury to health under the amended TSCA, and that the EPA is thus obligated to take regulatory action in response. This was 7 years in the court, and the Northern District of California have made the judgment in favor of the Food and Water Watch
Thank you.
that
Thank you,
have
Mr.
filed
Chairman.
against the EPA.
Thank you, Mr. Germain.
There are copies at Melbourne
Yeah,
City.
we received copies. Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Lee Sheldon.
Thank you for allowing us to speak, and I am against fluoridation. I'm a periodontist, and I've been here for many, many years. There's been some discussion about how many different studies were done in different parts of the world, and there was a difference in cognitive effects. Some countries, fluoride, some countries, non-fluoride, and they found a decrease in IQ. The National Institute of Health commissioned 3 studies to be done. They were all done in the past 5 years. And they were done over a period of time. They were prospective studies. In other words, they designed the study first, they had a control group, and they had an experimental group, and then they measured the IQ of individuals, of children, after that time. One of the studies began in utero and then went right through childhood and looked at IQ age 4, age 6, some up to the age of 12. In all 3 of those studies, there was a reduction in IQ. There is a difference in IQ from those who were fluoridated and those who grew up in non-fluoridated, with non-fluoridated mothers. Those studies haven't been refuted. Those studies are in the literature. And if you've seen the number of studies that have been retracted, these studies have not. They're in peer-reviewed journals. Journal of the American Association of Pediatrics, as well as 2 environmental journals. It was only last week the Journal of the American Medical Association of Pediatrics ran a meta-analysis of all the studies. And what was found was the same thing we're talking about, reduction in IQ. I'm a dentist. I can fix a cavity. I can't fix cognitive impairment. Thank you.
Carol Bensonsky and followed by Paul Gordon Shoup.
I'll tell you, I've known Dr. Sheldon since 1993. Our kids grew up together. Now they both have families together, and now they both have vacation together. Thank you for coming, Dr. Sheldon.
Carol's not here. Paul, are you Carol back there?
No, I'm not.
Okay, good, sir. Paul, you're up. Carol, going once, going twice, gone. Paul,
Okay. Paul Gordon Shoup. I live at 2145 Plamosa Way in the Atlantic. And I have 3 points to make real quickly. I was born in the Melbourne Hospital 66 years ago, and I've lived in this area all of my adult life. And I am a client of your water system. So given that, I feel like I have something to say. You know, this is my first time in this nice facility, but this time is something to say. Second point is I'm a science educator, and I have graduate level work in chemistry. I've served as a consultant to pharmaceutical industry, and over the last few years especially, I found that the pharmaceutical industry has really brainwashed our health industry. And they have a very strong lobby. They have captured our universities, our medical universities. And my biology degree started up at FSU, but continued down at Florida State. And I got a different education from the 2 places. And so I am very concerned about trusting what the doctors say. I had over the last 2 years, I've had 2 occasions to change doctors because I felt like I needed a second opinion. I needed alternatives to treatment that was being provided. So my third point is informed consent, and that's already been mentioned here a few times. We don't get informed consent on this treatment that these doctors here who are in support of the fluoridation are recommending. And that's a very important thing because my wife also has lost basically her thyroid. She has to be on thyroid medicine for the last 20 years. And the first thing they said to stop doing is stop eating gluten, make sure you don't have any gluten in your diet. Second thing is get rid of all the fluoride exposure you can. And so we went about purchasing shower filters initially and filtering the water. And now, we've gone to great expense to try and get the fluoride out of our water because we were not given informed consent. That's all I have to say.
Rachel Roberte, I believe. Rachel Roberte, followed by Cal Tweedledale.
Hello, I am Rachel Roberte, and I am here today in opposition of the fluoride in our water system. I've heard referenced many times how the parts per million level of what is safe is naturally occurring versus what are added to our drinking water is very similar. But it's important to note that this is like comparing apples and oranges because the fluoride found in nature is balanced with the appropriate minerals that our bodies need to utilize it. And the fluoride added to our water system is a synthetic chemical, often a toxic byproduct of other manufacturing, and our body does not know what to do with it. It acts as a neurotoxin, causing different neurological disorders. Many people in today's population also have different genetic variations, MTFHR, just to name one of them, making them more susceptible to different medications. I've been in the dental field for almost 20 years, and I've seen whole families have only one person affected with dental decay. There's so much more to dental disease than mass water fluoridation, such as oral microbiome, genetic variations. I think this is also further evidenced by all the dentists here that are in support of fluoridation, but yet are still currently citing the rampant decay of their patients who are all using the fluoride that they're saying is amazing. So I think that we should follow in line with the other 36 Florida counties, the Florida Department of Health, and with Florida Surgeons General who have gone fluoride free and vote against having this synthetic fluoride added to our water systems. If people choose to use fluoride, there are many other ways to do so. Any type of self-medication should be a choice. Thank you.
All right, Kaylee Tweedledale, followed by Dr. Kurt Hill.
Hello, my name is Kaylee Tweedale. I live in Melbourne. I'm a mom. I'm responsible before God for the health and safety of my children, including what they ingest. I'm not a scientist, but also after the last 5 years of misinformation, I'm not sure all scientists and science reports can be trusted. I'm not a dentist or a doctor, although I do attend them quite regularly with 5 children. And I'm very thankful for them being there, providing for care and emergencies. But I believe they should also support families' choice on what supplements and medicines are included in our daily lives, as they also need to acknowledge that each person's body is different and tolerates different synthetic minerals. I don't believe we need fluoride added to our water. It needs to be up to each person to choose what they add or do not add to their water. I'm sure a majority of people here that are forced fluoride or for non-medicated water also care about our environment. And as a mom, I just look around and see that our local wildlife, our lagoon, our Florida native plants, and most importantly, our children, all which should not be a science experiment, are sick. There's childhood cancer. There's continuous tooth decay. Our lagoon is not getting better. So something in our water, something we're doing is causing that. Sorry, I lost my place. But there's also a specific demographic here represented saying that if we have fluoride, we don't have tooth decay. But we still have tooth decay. They're still all employed. And we are thankful for them, but they're here. And I personally know that some of you stand strong on this, and then some of you are waiting on the diving board to jump into the water of chemical, I don't know, or not. And I please consider your vote today to positively protect our future. I'm asking you to make the right decision to vote no for forced fluoridation and reconsider reviewing the whole water sterilization process in general. Maybe using peroxide or chlorine dioxide instead of chloramine, which at a molecular level can also cause tooth corrosion. That is what we use in our water, not chlorine. It's chloramine. It's chlorine and ammonia combined. There's also, according to the water report on the website, our fluoride levels at 0.74. Our water includes high levels, the highest standards of PFAs. That's at the very bottom. They're called unregulated contamination. Our water has that too. So as we consider this, not just as a fluoride issue, we maybe should look at it as a whole water issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kurt Hill, followed by Bill Lundell.
Thank you, Mayor and council members, for your time on this issue. I appreciate you bringing this to the public's attention. I'm a practicing dentist, have been in Florida since 1992, practicing since 1984, and a Melbourne resident for majority of that time, still currently in Brevard County. And my children and my family were exposed to Melbourne water during most of that time. And despite that, having an RO system in my house at the time to clean up our water, not because of the fluoride, because of the other stuff in it, we were trying to provide a better water. And since most of us in this room probably drink bottled water, we're really talking about a public health issue here related to those vulnerable populations that don't drink bottled water or cook with water, because that's the group you're really trying to save. If you want to take fluoride out of the water, be prepared to increase your public health budget at the Department of Health and Public Health Service in Brevard County.
Please, no clapping.
Because you're probably going to have an increase of need with the overflow of patients. They're already overworked as it is. And we're talking about mostly the populations that need their services, not people like most of the people in this room that go to private doctors. On the other hand, having grown up, I gave my children fluoride tablets when they were growing up to make sure they would have optimal fluoride. One of them's a nurse practitioner right now, and the other's a chemistry teacher in Tampa. And they seem to have done pretty well despite the excessive fluoride used by Dr. Hill. So therefore, for that reason, I would say, consider your budget ramifications. It'll take 2 or 3 years, but you're going to see a gross increase in dental need and dental decay only because we're worried about fluoride in Melbourne water, which is at a minimal amount, relatively speaking, compared to our friends out west in the Rocky Mountain ranges. They get hyperfluorosis. That's part of their mountain range water table out there. I understand, but it's present in Melbourne water too. At very, very low levels. So if you want to increase dental decay and dental damage, please take the water fluoride out of our supply as it is right now. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll actually make a real quick comment too. The city of Palm Bay hadn't been fluoridating for 7 years. 7 years. Just to let you know, no one even knew that, and we never had anybody. I spoke to somebody over there, and they said no one even knew it. Just throwing that out there. Bill Lundell, Dr. Stagg, I believe. Apologize, it's hard to see. Good, sir.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, thank you for having me. My name is Bill Lundell. I live in Indian Harbor Beach, and I am a supporter of fluoride in water. In the 1960s, I was my mother's pincushion. I got every flu shot, every shot there was known, everything. But she also entered us in a study for fluoride. Now, this is 60 years ago. Bottom line is I still have all of my bottom teeth. I have a few of my top ones knocked out, but my top ones are still original teeth. They're 60 years old. So I am a supporter of it. I remember I've lived in Melbourne for 50 plus years now. And I remember back in the day, you could go out on Lake Washington, where we get our water from. And you could go out there with a picnic basket. You could go out there with a cooler full of beer and soft drinks, and no one would ever come back on shore. Now, I don't have to tell you, no one comes back to use the restrooms. What's going to happen? So you do the math. So and I would also consider, also with fluoride, what about the microplastics in our water? Microplastics are a Scrooge, as far as I'm concerned. And I would just like to say, let the water customers decide. I wrote a letter to the paper a couple years ago about the county commissioner up in Mims, who didn't ask the people what they thought of. Why don't you put out a survey with the city of Melbourne water customers and let us decide? It should be up to us. I have been taking fluoride. This is Melbourne water here. I filled it up before I left. I've been drinking Melbourne water untapped, unfiltered for 50 plus years. And I'll get to my other point. I am a former City of Melbourne employee. I haven't worked in 15 years. I worked in water and sewer. I can pretty much tell you about anything you want to know about what's talked about tonight, but I will say this, that on January 20th, 1987, working for the City of Melbourne, I entered the blood bank over on the Holmes Regional Blood Bank over on Hickory Street over here in Melbourne. I donated my first gallon of blood. Well, this past Saturday, I just donated my 155th gallon of blood. And I have to say, and I've been wanting to do this for a while to get the nerve to get up over here to thank the City Council, not just this City Council, but the City Council from 1987, because they were the ones who encouraged me to donate blood as a city employee. It was more of a union management and City Council thing for employee relations. City employee relations. And I was a meter reader for 20 years, worked beachside, I worked here, I worked downtown Melbourne. I could go on and on.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
But I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Stagg, followed by Kaufman. I'm sorry. Jane or? Yeah.
Hi, good evening. My name is Dr. Claire Stagg. A lot of the things that I'm going to talk about have already been mentioned, but I'd like to let you know that I'm a mom and a dental professional. And I've been asked
by my peers to share with you some widespread fluoridation issues that are more harmful than the average person is aware of. We dentists are the gatekeepers of your whole health, since the mouth is actually the beginning of your second brain, the gut. Unfortunately, with the advent of processed foods, poor diets, the increase in sugar consumption, environmental pollutants, we dentists have been relegated to the domain of master craftsmen or women who are supposed to only drill, fill, and bill. And this is what has supposedly led to the poor decision for water fluoridation to combat a tooth decay pandemic. Is it interesting that the main causes of decay that I have just cited are still not addressed, and the symptoms are only band-aided? Sadly, the arguments presented by the dental profession concern the disastrous effects on children's dental health. This is my mama bear coming out now. Everyone is up in arms about these children who are literally bookended by the establishment that, one, doesn't provide adequate education on prevention via proper nutrition, breastfeeding, and inflammatory marker reduction that results in breathing disorders. Two, then forcefully inserts an involuntary drug to attempt to fix a problem that they never really prevented in the first place. Not to forget that fluoride is in everything already, with poison control warnings even on the tubes of toothpaste. And watch for all the lawsuits that are coming. Procter & Gamble and Crest already get cited in them. Fluoride can cause decay as well as bone disease disorders in mouth and in the brain. Your skin is the largest organ. You absorb fluoride every time you take a bath. So now I have some questions for you and for all those in the room. Why don't we do the math instead to check how much money it actually costs to prevent all the disorders and diseases that I have said and mentioned long-term, as opposed to continued fluoridation of the water? Why is America still one of the few countries in the world that continues to fluoridate their water? Why is it important to add an industrial byproduct to our drinking and bathing water? Please do your research. You can argue with us, but you cannot argue with the science, all right? And this science has changed. Why keep rehashing the same documentation that is over 50 years old? Look at the current research. You even have your own Dr. Ashley Malin of UF, as well as the September federal court rulings in California. Both demonstrated the toxicity of fluoride to the IQ of children and so many other side effects.
Thank you, ma'am. The Jane Kaufman, I believe. Janet Kaufman, and followed by Betty Kelly. We're moving good. Thank you, everyone. Huh?
That's a hard act to follow. Thank you, everyone, for sharing what you have. I'm just a natural health consultant. I'm Joyce Kaufman. I live in Indian Harbor Beach. I work at a natural health food store. So I'm just a natural health consultant, but I meet hundreds of people every week that come in looking for fluoride-free toothpaste. They're intelligent people, they're educated, and they see what's going on. We've been fed a lot of misinformation through the years, and the common media has just prevailed. And it's time that we wake up. How many of you have thyroid issues? How many of you don't sleep well at night? How many of you stayed here for 4 hours because you wanted to stand up and say, we don't want fluoride in the water? You get to stand up this time. How many don't want fluoride in the water? And I want to thank you, the council. Now I know why I haven't come to a council meeting. This went on and on. But God bless you. God bless you all for doing what you do. I know it's not easy. I can see that. But I thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I thank everybody for, trying to stay awake through this. And just God bless us all, because we got to go forward with what we know. And just thank you.
Okay, Betty Kelly. No clapping. Thank you, Betty Kelly, followed by Sean Middleton.
Thanks, y'all, for staying up past bedtime. I'm a mom and a pediatrician here in Brevard County. I'm here to support the use of fluoridation in our water supply. To echo some of the things that have been said so far, we are seeing increases in ADHD and other issues in our students, but correlation is not causation. There are so many other confounding factors that can contribute to that, and we need more research. We need more information. But the evidence, even the most recent publication in JAMA Pediatrics, was a meta-analysis of over 70 studies, was the dose makes the poison. So those studies were at 2 to 6 parts per million, not 0.7. And so I'd encourage you to continue looking at the information. We need more research. We need more support, certainly for all of our students, for all of our children. But I don't think this is the solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Betty Kelly, that was you, right? Okay. Sean Middleton, followed by Gerald Bird. Sean Middleton, followed by Gerald Bird, and then Richard Nink, or Nink.
Sadness.
Sean Allred Middleton, a sleep deprived dad of 2 wonderful girls under 2. I get a solid good 2 hours of sleep at night. We talk about personal choice. So I personally have to, my choice to not fluoridate my children results in me having to go out and transport in 20 gallons of water per week to my house. I have to physically carry it in. We're talking about science. So I'm actually from Grand Rapids, Michigan, where the original studies for fluorinization of water happened in 1945. And they did conclude that it improved oral hygiene. However, the control city was Muskegon, Michigan, of which they omitted the control city because why? There was a national improvement of oral hygiene across the country at the exact same time. So the results were already saying that. Now, I provided a little packet to council last night. I'm sure not all you got to see it, but it's a meta-analysis of 74 different studies across multiple countries that conclusively links consumption of fluoride to lowering of IQ in children. This was published as of January 6, 2025, last week. This is about as fresh of new science as it gets. And they're going to call us science deniers. I'm looking to protect my children. I physically labor to do that. And I'm here at council advocating my last little bit of sleep that I would get to try to advocate to all of you to please stop medicating my kids. That's all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Gerald Bird, followed by Richard Nink, followed by Sandra Sullivan.
Good evening. My name's Dr. Gerald Bird. I'm an oral and maxillofacial surgeon. I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So what I can tell you tonight is my experiences through the years. Fluoride was added to the water of Grand Rapids in 1945, as he said, and the amount of caries were decreased, or what they were comparing it to is Muskegon, because they put them both to compete against each other and what's happening. And Grand Rapids caries rate went way down, and so they improved by about 25%. So after 5 years, Muskegon said, you know, we're not going to stay there. We're going to add fluoride to our water. So these first 2 cities did that with the research that was done before that time. And so that early registrations and that information that was passed on then became more accurate as the years went on. So a lot of the new things that you may read or hear about are not really good studies. And it's hard to prove it to you all. And so I was born in 1954. So Grand Rapids adding fluoride 9 years before I was born really helped me. It helped me so much that I just had my first cavity 2 weeks ago. And Jim Antone that came up here and spoke, he fixed it 2 weeks ago. So I just turned 70. So you see how long that has helped me and my wife, who's from Grand Rapids. So we both have had great teeth through this time. I have spent my life treating and extracting bad teeth with cavities, both single and several teeth that have major infections added with multiple medical conditions. This treatment could be taken care of in an emergency room, and I was there so many times, or in the surgery room. They always involved incision and drainage of an infection that took place along with the tooth that was bad or multiple teeth that were bad. I took care of extractions.
Good,
That was
thank
my
you.
time?
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay, well, I can give you more information, but thank you.
Thank you, sir. Richard Nink, followed by Sandra Sullivan.
Good evening, council. I know it's been a long night. Just want to bring up a few points, and I got some show and tells I like to go over. My name is Richard Nink. I'm a Melbourne resident, and I just want my voice to be heard that I am opposed to the fluoridation in the water. I am asking you clearly and plainly to stop fluoridating the water. I was here in 2018. I was here in 2019 in front of this council, and some of you were there, and we were one vote away. One vote away. I am so encouraged that we heard Colonel Thomas, council member at the time, has been educated. He did his research. He now has a different opinion. And he spoke out. He mentioned that to us tonight. I think that says volumes, that this council has listened to that, and that decision that was made then, and you heard from the one deciding vote that he has changed his mind. I was at the Palm Bay a few weeks ago, Palm Bay City Council, largest city in Brevard County. They have voted not to reintroduce, refeed fluoride into the water. With fluoride, it's when you're drinking water, unlike toothpaste, you can't spit it out. Toothpaste, you can spit it out. When you're drinking the water, you need that water. You can't get rid of it. You can't filter it out. The only way to filter it out is like with reverse osmosis. The water filters that you put on your sinks, on your refrigerators, that does not filter it out. You are stuck with it. So you heard a lot tonight about the poisons that fluoride is, and the warnings that are on our toothpastes. Well, I get these toothpastes at the dentist. I still have one of the bags. I don't open the boxes. It's still got the little silver protective foil on there. I don't know why. It's protecting you against poison, but it's on there. So is the warning really on here? It is. I could read it on here. And it talks about age and how for young kids it's particularly dangerous. They talk about no more than a pea size when brushing your teeth. And if you accidentally swallow that pea, call poison control or your doctor. It says it on here. Multiple tubes that I got from my dentist at this small amount, they want you to call poison control. I don't use this stuff, but came in useful today. I use non-fluoridated toothpaste, Dr. Sheffield's. He's actually the inventor, so he says, of gel toothpaste and toothpaste in a tube. No fluoride, no warnings. There's not one single warning on here. I read it over just again before I came up. Not any warnings. Don't let the fluoride go into the lagoon. The lagoon is important to us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sandra Sullivan, followed by, I can't read this, but the phone number is 8029. Can you read that? Can you, Rachel?
Okay, Sandra Sullivan. I live in South Patrick Shores, which uses City of Melbourne water. And of course, of concern is this EPA lawsuit that's very recent. I was here in 2019 and spoke, as well as my son and daughter. I have 3 children. And I buy filters on my Berkeley to filter out fluoride, and I also buy bottled water, depending on what I'm doing with the water. I just want to read something related to the lawsuit. This is from an article. EPA in 1986, under the Safe Drinking Water Act, capped fluoride concentrations in drinking water at 4 milligrams per liter. And the agency says levels above 2 milligrams per liter should come with a warning. Meanwhile, the U.S. Public Health Service recommends an optimal fluoride concentration 0.7 milligrams per liter, according to 2015 rule. The optimum level poses an unreasonable risk of reduced IQ in children. That was the basis of this lawsuit. There's growing concerns with fluorination of drinking water because many things inorganic fluoride has the potential to affect brain development in children, yada, yada, yada. So I want to tell you, where I live in South Patrick Shores, we have a lot of inorganic arsenic contamination. Okay, the lagoon plan's taking that out. And inorganic is a class A carcinogen, okay? But organic arsenic is perfectly harmless. Out in Montana, you got high levels of organic. Same thing with fluorination, right? This is a waste product from the phosphate industry. And I'm sure you seem very well informed, and I'm very appreciative of the council bringing this forward, but the Fluoride Action Network has a lot of information on this being a chemical waste product of the phosphate industry. The same industry that the pharmaceuticals and a lot of these industries, anyway. I just want to bring up that in 2019, when I was here, I had met with Dr. Connett, and this is from a book he has. Fluoride is incompatible with the human biochemistry. This is from his slides that he presented here in 2019. And he talks about how nature removes it from our bodies. Nature's developed ways of protecting living things from fluoride. It says the level of fluoride in mother's milk is 0.004 parts per million. Our bodies are, as breastfeeding mothers, and I breastfed for 6 years, our bodies remove it because it knows it's bad for us.
Okay,
And,
thank you, Ms. Sullivan.
and
Thank
it's
you.
very high when it's not.
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you.
And sorry, what's your name?
Chris Burns.
Chris. Burns?
B-U-R-N-S.
Okay.
It's tough to see, to read.
Yeah, sorry, my handwriting's not.
That's
the
all
best.
good, man. I just want to
It's-
make sure you had a chance, you know.
Fair enough. So, a little bit of a joke, since we're talking about a very serious topic here, something a little lighthearted. You know, for dihydrogen monoxide, man, we're getting real serious and really into the solutions here. So, no dad jokes? Jeez. So,
Really good jokes.
yeah, I know, always the worst. So, first off, I'd like to thank the mayor for bringing this issue, you know, up for everyone's consideration. Fundamentally, this is a water quality issue. I think we can all agree of like, we want to know what's the quality of our water, what's in it. So I started looking into what are in the reports, what do the NGOs say, what do the water quality say, what does the EPA say about our water? And it was kind of surprising. Going back 15 years of reports that you guys all have that is public record, we have 3 PFAS. They're all known to be carcinogens, and they're in our water supply right now and have never been taken out. Carcinogens. There is no legal limit set by the EPA says they are safe to drink. How about arsenic? 21 times the recommended limit, although below legal limits. Why should arsenic be in our water, period? Now, for all of our thyroid persons, chlorate, 20 times the recommended limit, period. By any organization I was able to find research that had a solid recommendation on. Why is that still in our water supply, period? Chromate, another carcinogen, HAA5, HAH9, all carcinogens, total hyththermics. We're talking levels that are 200 times recommended limits for any human consumption that are in our water supply right now. If we want to deal with having better quality water, let's fix the system we have right now before we start questioning actual science. There is 100 years of fluoride research comparing the Rocky Mountains where there is high concentrations and why they didn't have cavities to areas that had none. That's a peer-reviewed study. So let's also look at the EPA investigation back in 2013, talking about the Indian River Lagoon. There is literally a report from 2013 where our own water quality was poisoning the lagoon and flagged it as an environmental justice issue, where our lowest areas who live and depend on the lagoon were being poisoned by our own wastewater because we didn't treat it correctly. That water goes upstream to other communities. Do we want to poison our neighbors? I didn't think so. So why are we continuing to let it stand? And by the way, this isn't me coming up with these numbers. They're in your own Melbourne Water City Quality Report from last year, plain as day, backed up by the EPA and non-governmental organizations that all concur. Our levels are too high for carcinogens and thyroid damaging compounds. They're all in there. Fluoride's not the issue. Sorry if it seems I'm passionate about this, because I am, because first and foremost, I'm an engineer and a scientist.
Thank you, sir.
One last point, if I may. The Surgeon General is quoting an article.
Sir,
Yeah, I understand.
Sorry, thank
The
you.
article he's quoting has been
Thank you,
refuted by
thank
everyone who's looked at pure wax.
Good, sir.
My name is Dr. Pierre Cloutier, MD, and at Cocoa Beach. When we put fluoride in the water, we mandate it. So when we mandate something, we remove the informed consent. So if tonight I've seen that people are for or against, that's their choice, okay? So if they want to put toothpaste with fluoride, that's their choice. But the one who don't, if there's a mandate, you cannot avoid it, or you filter it, or you, so that's simple as that. So I hope you're gonna make the right decision.
Thank
you. To stop the mandate. Thank you.
Crystal, Noni Crystal Agent? I don't know what that. Okay, followed by Dr. Karen Lester. We're up here. Okay, ma'am, could you give that to our city clerk, please? And you can go to, just for the speed. Well, just give it to the city clerk, so we're trying to, so we can just, it'll speed things up. Thank you. They'll make sure we get it. Thank you, ma'am. Good. Thank you.
I'm the living woman known as Nani. I'm an inhabitant of Brevard County. I hereby place the city manager, the city attorney, and all 7 council members on notice of liability, notice and demand to respond within 72 hours, and notice of a claim that we will assert, my husband and I, in 72 hours.
Okay.
The main reason is First Amendment religious right. As you can see on what I put up there, the fluoride is an endocrine disruptor. It actually displaces iodine, T4 thyroxine for those on thyroid medications. 4 stands for iodine. When fluoride with 7 electrons and iodine with 7 electrons are playing together in the body, iodine loses, fluoride wins through the scientific principle called halogen displacement. This has nothing to do with caries. This has nothing to do with dental cavities. This has to do with human life. You are dead in a minute when you don't have iodine. The most toxic form of cyanide actually uses a halogen in group 7 of the periodic table. So when you displace the fluoride and you dumb down the thyroid because it cannot produce T4 or T3, and when you also, the most fluoridated organ in the body, gland, with the study that's been referenced in the notice, it causes dumbing down of the pineal gland. Public Law 97-280 makes the Bible as law, and the 5th chakra, which is the 5th church in Revelations chapters 2 through 3, is the bridge between earth and heaven. You are violating my husband and I's religious rights. We are prepared to file a claim against your bond, FMIT number 0370. We are also prepared to file a claim based on an extrajudicial judgment that is in the clerk of court, which is a self-executed judgment that allows my husband and I to claim $2 million US silver dollars, which equates to the silver spot price of today to $60 million plus $6 million per day. This is all in the clerk of court record. You can look at this. And the extrajudicial judgment is enforceable through the U.S. Marshal's Office. You can check out USM 94. We do not consent to any forced medication, let alone a spiritual suppression. Iodine reverses cancer, as proven by Dr. Zhang in a UCLA study in 2003. Iodine deficiency causes cretinism, which is why fluoride lowers the IQ, which is why we have ADHD, because iodine is the most important mineral in the brain. Nobody can deny what chemistry classes teach, which is the halogen displacement of group 7. That is a problem spiritually. It's a problem with the 4,000% increase in turbo cancers that has happened since the shot. And it's a problem emotionally and mentally with ADHD. So we do not want fluoride in our water. Thank you.
Dr. Karen Lester, followed by Dr. Angela McKnight, I believe. Right over here, please.
Hello, I'm Dr. Corinne Leister. I believe that the fluoride should be taken out of our waters.
I'm sorry, can you speak? I apologize. Go ahead.
This side?
Yeah, that's better.
I think, Dr. Corinne Leister, I believe the fluoride should be taken out of our drinking water because I believe it's a medication that is given to all people. Not all people need to be on this medication. So I am one of them, and my thyroid is no longer working correctly. So I also, like many people have mentioned about it, it does get displaced, the iodine by the fluoride, I believe. So I don't believe we should be giving it to our entire population of people, the fluoride, when it's not necessary for everyone. And I would recommend that the people, the dentists that want it to be given to their patients should recommend fluoride toothpaste, fluoride drops, just like I think Dr. Hill said he gave it to his kids. I agree with him. If you believe your patients need the fluoride, then there's other ways to give it to them besides having them ingest it, and a lot of it. And that's why as a medication, it shouldn't be given that much because some little people don't need as much as some bigger people, and everybody's getting the same doses. So I just think that that should be a consideration. And I just think that instead of forcing fluoride on all the citizens, that maybe we should just have better oral hygiene instruction to our patients, better training on sugars, soda, talk to patients more, maybe spend a little more time on educating them on what they should and shouldn't be eating, because really it's not a problem of lack of fluoride, it's a problem of taking better care of your teeth. It's pretty simple, actually. So I just wish that we would take the medication away and just spend maybe a little bit more time talking with our patients and educating them on how to take better care of their teeth. And so I think it should be removed from the city water right away. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Angela McKnight, I think, McNutt, I'm sorry, followed by Vinda Shala.
Good evening. My name is Angela McKnight. I am an orthodontist here in Melbourne, and I was born at Holmes Regional Medical Center and born and raised in Indian Harbor Beach, and I currently live in Satellite Beach. My mom actually gave me fluoride tablets when I was little, in addition to the fluoride water I was drinking, and I have no problems today. Tonight, I'm here to tell you my strong support of fluoride. As we've been seeing tonight, you are all extremely diligent at your work, and I've been very impressed about the determination that you have to go to the experts for what you're looking at, all the topics that you're going through. And I really just encourage you tonight to do the same thing with this. the American Dental Association, the Center for Disease Control, the World Health Organization. These people are the people that spend their careers looking at all of the science we're talking about tonight. We can pick a study here and there, and we can talk about meta-analysis, but these organizations are the ones who are spending all of the time and effort on looking at all of the studies. So I really encourage you to follow their lead. You know, these decades of research show that it is a preventative measure that has benefited not only myself, but my parents and my grandparents here in Brevard since 1965. I'm passionate about making Brevard a wonderful place to live and a great place for my patients and at the forefront of technology and science. And if you remove the fluoride, it really just takes us back and makes us look like we're not following technology and science, which is what the Space Coast is known for. Thank you.
Brenda Shaw or Charlotte, I'm sorry, I apologize. Followed by Terry LaPlante.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Dr. Brenda Shaw. I practice here in Melbourne, Florida. As a general dentist here in our community, I witness every day how dental problems, like cavities, disrupt lives, especially for children. Imagine a child in pain, struggling to focus in class, or missing school entirely because of something as preventable as tooth decay. The Journal of American Dental Association puts it starkly, quote, among young children, early childhood cavities has been related to impaired development, low educational performance, poor behavior, family stress, diminished quality of life, and even disability and death. The healthcare system is confronted with management of the extreme consequences of early childhood cavities in hospital emergency rooms and operating rooms, end quote. As dentists, we advocate for water fluoridation even though it reduces the need for dental treatments, essentially working against our own financial interests, because we care. It's about protecting our neighbors, our children, and the most vulnerable among us. Water fluoridation prevents cavities by at least 25%, keeps kids healthy and in school, and spares family and society from unnecessary pain and financial burden. Removing it would hurt those who need protection the most. Yes, tooth decay is a multifactorial disease, but this does not diminish the positive effect of fluoridated water or subsequent negative effects of removing it. This is why I strongly urge you to ensure our water treatment facility maintains fluoride levels at 0.7 parts per million, the ideal level for cavity prevention with no known negative outcomes. This simple, cost-effective measure is an investment in the health, well-being, and future of our community. Let's not turn back the clock on decades of proven public health progress. Thank you.
Terry LaPlante, followed by Scott Levin, followed by Nonine Zimba.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for bringing this issue up. I'm here to ask you to take the fluoride out of the water. You've heard a lot about thyroid. One of the issues is the dental fluorosis. That's my personal testimony. I gave birth to my daughter here in Melbourne. She's almost 30 now. She has her baby teeth all rotted out despite the fact that she was drinking the fluoridated water. I spent thousands of dollars on her teeth when she was a young child. As a teenager, her teeth became marked with the white marks of dental fluorosis. Her teeth are scarred from dental fluorosis. Despite, you know, as a parent, after you spend all that money on dental care and all the money on braces, and then your daughter's teeth don't look great, it's really upsetting. But now she's, you know, she's almost 30, and now she's had thyroid problems, is looking at losing her thyroid. So I would like the fluoride taken out of the water. I just want to point out that we are literally swimming in fluoride. It's worked our way through our water system, through our food system. We're not just getting it in our water. Foods that have a very high level of fluoride include non-organic vegetables, sprayed with a fluoride-based pesticide, chicken nuggets, chicken fingers, commercial crops that are watered with fluoridated water, food cooked in fluoridated water, bottled beverages, and most processed food. Fluoride is used as a fumigant in food processing plant to kill bugs and rodents. Fluoride in antibiotics has proved to be problematic. I can remove the fluoride from my tap water with an RO system, but many people don't have the means to do that. And unfortunately, I didn't do that when my daughter was a child. My daughter loved chicken nuggets, so it might not have just been the fluoride in the water, because she loved chicken nuggets, and they have one of the highest levels of fluoride in our processed food system. In fact, most, if not all, chicken meat that has been deboned mechanically has the highest level of fluorides of any meats. Pureed baby food made from chicken is another one that exceeds all safe levels, currently under the new guidelines and previously. So you see, we have to take it out of our water because we're swimming in it. It's in our rivers, it's in our lakes, it's in our storm ponds, it's in our
Thank you.
showers. Thank you.
Scott Levin, followed by Nonine Zimba, followed by Warren Edwards. And thank you, everyone, we're getting through, everybody. We're getting there.
Hi, good evening. Mayor, City Council, thank you for being here tonight. I am definitely for removing fluoride from the water and no longer adding it. I'm not an expert. I have read about a lot of the things that folks have been talking about here tonight. And over the years, it's the information has been increasing, the scientific information has been increasing from multiple sources. And I understand why there are strong views from both sides. But just from what I've read about what's already been mentioned here before about how children's IQs are being affected and things like how the pineal gland in the brain is being affected by the calcification of fluoride and how the melatonin can be affected and sleep disorders, the whole sleep waking factors in humans are being affected by it. I do believe it. I do believe it from what I've read. And so once again, I am most definitely for the removal of fluoride from the water. Thank you.
Thank you. Nonine Zimba, again, followed by Warren Edwards, followed by Gene Barker, I believe.
Nonine Ziemba, Indian Harbor Beach. Good morning, council members.
Nice.
Gotta be somebody.
So I am here to ask you to remove the process of adding fluoridation to the water, since I use the city's water in Indian Harbor Beach. A couple things have been mentioned here tonight. The federal ruling, the federal court ruling, that was a landmark case. It was a 7-year case. But one of the things that people don't realize about that case, in June of 2020, after a 2-week bench trial was held, the trial was placed in abeyance as the court awaited the finalization of the National Toxicology Program's systematic review of fluoride neurotoxicity. However, in 2022, pressure from pro-fluoridation interest groups led to the NTP's report being blocked from public release by top officials at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Plaintiffs submitted documents obtained via the Freedom of Information Act exposing this intervention to the court. This discovery led to a legal agreement forcing the report to be made public and prompting Chen, that's the judge, the federal judge in this case, to rule that the trial should go forward using the draft report from the NTP. So I think what people don't realize is a lot of information is being withheld from the public That includes dentists. That includes us here today. So if you look and do your research, you will find reports from the Lancet. You will find publications in PubMed about the neurotoxicity of fluoride. Also, MIMS took fluoride out in May 13th of 2021. And I don't hear anybody talking about how bad the teeth are getting in MIMS. Well, the level of fluoride in the water, according to the report back when they were taking it out, there's 0.2 parts per million of fluoride naturally in the water. So it's not like they took every single bit of fluoride out of the water. And it could be that what occurs naturally is what we need. So I've got that. That's my responses.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Dr. Edwards, followed again by Jean Barker, sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Warren Chris Edwards. I am a practicing dentist of 47 years, and I practice in Vieira. The first half of my career, I supported fluoridation. That's what I was trained with in dental school, and that's what basically the government told us. The CDC and stuff was that, you know, this is a public health benefit. It was actually claimed one of the top 10 public health benefits in the last century. But by who? I think it was a scam. It was a marketing scam. When I moved here, I wound up finding out that I was toxic to mercury, which is something that I was told was safe when I was trained in dental school. And I put mercury fillings in people's teeth for over 20 years. And that led me on a journey to really learn about how to heal myself and get rid of the mercury. And in that journey, I really learned that fluoride is a toxin. It's a neurotoxin. And fluoride is not necessary in the human body. Once you get to age 8 or 9, there is zero benefit to the teeth. The teeth only benefit when they're being formed, when the enamel is being formed. So after age 9, every one of us that is ingesting fluoride is affecting the rest of our body. You've heard it tonight. The fluoride, the bones are a consideration of our elderly. The thyroids, it's epidemic. So, you know, with the recent science, I was here 5 years ago and I spoke against water fluoridation. The science has really bared out the fact that this is a toxin and that the risks far outweigh the benefits. And maybe there is some benefit to water fluoridation in helping enamel get harder. I don't deny that, but I think that the risk to our children, the most vulnerable, is far outweighs the benefit, and it's mass medication. I agree that what we need to work on is education, you know, of our pregnant mothers and our people that are taking, you know, educating our children even before they get to school. Let's go ahead and work on programs like that. And if you want to go ahead and fluoridate, you know, do it with good fluoride, not this hydrofluorosilicic acid that's a toxin. So, you know, and I really recommend to my fellow colleagues that they really look at the science. If you still believe that fluoridation is good, look at the science. I mean, the science is clear. They say, oh, we have science that doesn't cause harm. That is wrong. You know, I would debate them. And there's no recent science that supports fluoridation. It's all old news. So I'm out of time, but please take it out of the water.
Thank you, Doctor. Jean Barker, I believe.
Sorry, that's California Public Plan.
Huh?
That's California Public Plan.
That's all good. Followed by Barbara Wetmore, I believe it is.
Hey, nice to be back here, guys. Before I start, I just want to say that even though we don't agree, it's really nice to see so many people in this room who care about the health of the city. And it's a bummer because these conversations get super heated, but I think at the end of the day, everybody has good intentions and really cares about the community. So that's heartwarming. I'm here to speak in favor of removing the water. The Surgeon General has already come forward and said that he recommends removing this chemical from our drinking water after citing potential neuropsychiatric risks. While I know dentists will say that it's essential for dental health, we need to remember that there still will be access to fluoride via toothpaste, mouthwashes, things like that. We don't need to bathe in fluoride. We don't need to shower in fluoride. We don't need to drink or ingest fluoride. And anybody, any dentist or practitioner that wants their patients to have more fluoride, you guys should give them all the fluoride. Give them a help. Give them tons of fluoride.
Yeah, could you focus up here, please?
Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay. I have a ton of studies going back and forth about how fluoride causes osteoporosis, about how fluoride affects brain health with pregnant women and children. And I think that it's kind of like a moot point. We go back and forth, right? Like one side says, this is the science. The other side says, this is the science. And I think the best point is that it is a medically mandated intervention, and I do not consent. I do not want fluoride in my water. And I think if anything, over the last couple of years, we've learned that like the experts don't get it right. Honestly, I would expect a little more humility from experts at this point. But here we are. And I think that's the biggest thing to take into consideration is this is something that's being put in without consent. People don't even know that this is happening. People don't even know that there's a risk, and where there's risk, there must always be choice. Additionally, this contradicts the first point of the Nuremberg Code, which says that everybody should be given informed consent about every medical intervention. And we can say this is a matter of public health, but if it can affect one person negatively, everybody should be informed about that. Let's see, I'm about to run out of time. As a mother, oh yes, this is a good one. As a mother, I would take cavities over a broken brain any day. And I just want you guys to think about that. Would you take cavities or would you take a broken brain? Because if there's even a percentage of a chance that we are affecting the IQ of our children or affecting any kind of, having any negative effect with an intervention we're doing, it's like, dude, we know how to fix a cavity. Do we know how to fix a broken brain on a kid? Do we know how to do that? It seems like it's probably a very, way more complex. Anyway, let's see. 37 cities are now fluoride free, and I would like to see Melbourne do the same. Yeah, the point one of the Nuremberg. Oh, I'm out of time. Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, Barbara Wetmore, followed by Justin Leineck and Andrew Langston.
Good morning, I guess. My name's Dr. Barbara Wetmore in Rockledge. I've been a Brevard County resident for my entire life. I was born in Cape Canaveral Hospital. So for 40 years, I've been ingesting the really good fluoridated tap water. My dental office is located here, and I've been a dentist for 15 years. I'm here tonight spending time away from my children and away from sleep because we have to work in the morning, because I think this is really, really important. My children and I drink fluoridated water, and I have my whole life. I don't have any health issues. I don't have any of the issues because, like what some of my colleagues have said, the poison is the dose. You eat tablespoons of salt and you're going to get cancer. You eat too much of anything and it's going to be bad for you. If we're doing it in the right, safe dosages, it really is helpful. This quick clinical story I want to share. When I was a second-year dentist has really stuck with me. Two families, I knew both of them in my practice. They're both really smart individuals, like collectively, the family. They have great dental hygiene at home, and one family will not do fluoride. They won't take tap water. They won't do fluoride toothpaste. They won't do the varnishes. The other family does all this stuff. They have the fluoride toothpaste. They drink the tap water. The non-fluoride 7-year-old, cavities in almost every tooth. Okay, these are smart people. They have a good diet. They're doing all of the things, and the 7-year-old has cavities. The people who kid takes the fluoride. I'm sorry, it's really late and my brain's not functioning. He has no cavities. Their 8-year-old kid, no cavities. Okay, so I understand everyone's right to not want fluoride. but if it's done safely, there are no bad effects. Unfortunately, I worked at Coast Dental for 2 years in the underserved populations, and you should see these kids, like, they have rampant cavities, they have rampant infections, they come swollen, they're in the ER. Like, it's like, okay, has anyone had an extraction? Can you raise your hand if you've ever had a tooth pulled? Is it pleasant? It, for an adult, it is traumatic. I'm pulling these 7, 6, 8, 5-year-old kids' teeth in Coast Dental where I was stuck for 2 years, and it was HE double hockey sticks. Okay, people, you do not want to have to pull teeth on kids that have abscess. It's terrible. So as a mom, as a dentist, those are the kids that need this fluoride. Okay, those kids who don't have.
Thank you. Next up is Justin Leineck, followed by Andrew Langston, followed by Dr. Sale Martigano.
Wow. Good evening. I'm Dr. Justin Leineck, practice in Rockledge. I've been in Brevard County for over 30 years. I've done my own research. I've studied this topic. I've been a dentist first and foremost for my patients, my family. Fluoride is a naturally occurring mineral in groundwater. It has been prevalent across the United States since before humans walked the earth. Fluoride, my whole family has drank fluoride. Our entire lives, we really haven't had cognitive dissonance or detrimental effects. The Melbourne water supply contains so many actual carcinogens. The Melbourne water supply has forever chemicals. The Melbourne water supply ultimately has many other products that are contributing to all of these ailments that you hear about. Fluoride is not one of them. All right. If it's in proper dosage and low levels, it has been proven safe and effective. It is helping marginalized communities, people that don't have access to dental care. Those are the ones that actually really benefit. These people that say that they drink bottled water, they have the ability to pay for their fillings. They don't have the ability to tell other people, go buy fluoride tablets for your children because they get cavities and you should be taking better care of your kids. This is a community involved program. It helps the most marginalized people. If there was conclusive links to the ailments that are claimed by all of these other constituents, Health and Human Services would be stopping fluoridation all across the board, nonstop. Correlation does not equal causation. There are so many other chemicals found in our water supply that may be contributing to things like hypothyroidism, osteoporosis. You cannot contribute one particular mineral to all of these people's other ailments. Studies show that dental costs are lower and oral health problems have declined in fluoridated communities. Healthier mouths benefit overall health and the quality of life and the quality of our society. Every time a fluoridation law has been challenged legally based on these personal freedom arguments, they have always been shot down. Courts have recognized that community leaders have the ability to make this decision for their constituents.
Okay, thank you, sir. Andrew Langston, followed by Dr. Sal Martanga.
Good morning. My name's Dr. Andrew Langston. I'm an oral surgeon here. Basically, I just want to bring up a few points. The reason systemic fluoride is helpful is more in the development of the teeth. So that's for the kids. Their permanent teeth are developing in the jaw. When you're growing up, first permanent tooth comes out at age 6. It just helps strengthen it. Just like Dr. Patel said, it's no silver bullet. It just increases its resistance to acid, right? So if you're still eating sugary foods, you're going to get it. If you don't brush your teeth and don't floss, you're going to have cavities. That's a simple fact. Saying anecdotal evidence that you don't see teeth complaints from Palm Bay and MIMS, that's a myth because we see it. I see it all the time. You know, the most patients that end up in the ER that I have to go see and do call on, take them to the OR, do a neck drain on them because they're swollen. They're from Palm Bay. So, I mean, we could talk about anecdotal evidence all you want. The study, you know, a fellow colleague brought up, look at it. Look at the study with the neurologic effects. Yes, increased fluoride causes neurogenic effects. What is it referred to? The reference group or the control group, what are their levels at? It says it right on there, 0.3 to 0.98. What do we recommend? 0.7. Those are the control groups. Those are the ones that have the high IQ. So that's what you're comparing to. When you take out the fluoride, are you going to take it out completely? Because natural occurring may be 0.3, but now you're setting a precedent. You don't want to medicate. So now you're setting a dangerous precedent. You're also setting that precedent because now you're putting chlorine in the water currently. This month, you set out, we just set out a notice, everybody, we're not even mixing with ammonia this week. That comes later because of all the pollutants and microorganisms we need to kill. So that's what's going on right now in our water here in January. Last I checked, I think chlorine, if you drink that, that's bad for you. But little small amounts, does that kill you? No. It makes the water tolerable for you to drink so that you don't get sick and go to the hospital, incur more costs. These all take a toll on the community. It's cost. You know, I go do a lot of this for free, but you know, last I checked, I think I did $100,000 in cases for free. I mean, yeah, I can't, how much more can I do? I can't, right? Dr. Patel, she sees kids all the time. It's not because it's just fluoridated water. Yes, we do all those things. All the things everybody's talking about, we already do that. We try to do educational things. We go to schools, do sealants. We do all the preventative things. There's a ton of things. But guess what? Those people with low incomes, what can they afford? Those cheap foods. Well, guess what? They're all high in sugar. They don't have a choice. Make a choice. Help the kids. It's your choice.
Thank you, sir.
It's your freedom. And I understand that, but
Dr.
please just
Sal-
follow the
Dr.
facts.
Sal Martingo? I'm sorry, Martingano, followed by Maya Han.
Hi, my name is Dr. Sal Martingano. I've been studying the effects of fluoridation on the human species for about 20 years. My research began in 1984 with the onset of attention deficit hyperactive disorder. The Journal of Environmental Health in 1992 stated that the higher proportion of artificially fluoridated water, you'll get the higher concentration of ADHD. Now, I certainly recognize that fluoridation is not the only cause of ADHD, but it's the only one that's not been fully vetted, fully investigated, and that's on purpose. Fluoridation disrupts the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis in the brain. Fluoride interferes with the production of neurotransmitters. It's been mentioned before about the neurotransmitters that are involved, like serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, GABAergic, resulting in the hypothalamus not synchronizing with environmental needs, which means what it's supposed to do, it's not doing. And it's being done, that's been slowed down by the fluoride. The reason is that fluoride is the most unstable element in the periodic table and can easily bond with stable elements, causing them to dysfunction. 90% of the fluoride added to the water supply comes from pharmaceutical grade fluorosilicic acid, a major byproduct of the fertilizer industry patented by Monsanto. Monsanto can't patent natural fluoride, so it makes it up through pharmaceutical grade. That's where they get their money from. Fluoride resists metabolic and natural breakdown, perfect for fertilizer and weed killers that remain in the soil, on plants, and on food eaten by animals, which are later consumed by humans. Fluoride is also a major byproduct of the aluminum industry that must be disposed of by the FDA, CDC, and EPA mandates. Disposal of fluoride is expensive and always presents health hazards. Lobbying efforts by mega corporations like Monsanto and Alcoa have convinced pharmaceutical municipalities that fluoride reduces cavities in children and therefore should be added to drinking water. The ADA, 98% of Western Europe has rejected fluoridation in water supplies, and long-term studies have shown no significant difference in children cavities with or without fluoride. The journal Lancet Neurology reported fluoride is less toxic than arsenic, but more toxic than lead. And all three substances are illegal to dump in lakes, rivers, and streams. Yet it's somehow perfectly okay to put fluoride in our drinking water and our toothpaste. So where's the logic? We ban plastic straws and environmental reasons, but use our bodies as waste disposals for highly toxic substances to reduce cavities. Fluoridation affects the entire population, making this form a mass medication without individual consent. I urge the committee
Thank you.
not to put it.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank
Thank you, Doctor. Hahn, Dr. Natan, followed by Dr. Kevin Hahn.
Hi, thank you. I'm Maya Hahn. I am the past president, now vice president of REACT Research and Education for Autistic Children's Treatment. We represent special needs populations, and I have been at this career as speech language pathologist and autism specialist for 29 years. And one thing I can tell you about this special population is they're very vulnerable to toxins. It's very, very dangerous to be putting a neurotoxin into public drinking water, specifically for our young children, for pregnant mothers, for children that are formula fed and every single bottle is filled with a neurotoxin, and for our most vulnerable children that are already damaged. Parents spend hundreds, thousands of dollars trying to treat their children. They are giving them therapies. They are watching every single ingredient on every box in the supermarket, but they can't get the fluoride out of the water. It is extraordinarily expensive to do reverse osmosis for a family. And now we are saying, we hear these providers, and I'm not arguing that fluoride doesn't strengthen teeth. You know, I am saying that we should all have a right. There are families out there that cannot afford to take this out, and they want to protect their children. The science is now clear. I come from a dental family. My husband's a dentist. We believed in fluoride. We fluorinated the water for our own children. Our children have fluorosis. Our children also have neurological disabilities. I'm asking each and one of you guys, and I appreciate the board here, that you actually are bringing up this topic because it's very important. You know, I was from Grand Rapids. They were celebrating 75 years of fluorinating their water, and I talked to Mayor Bliss and I begged her to not celebrating poisoning the population. If people want fluoride, they can get the fluoride, but patients should have informed consent. The city is not obligated to provide medical treatment. They're obligated to make sure that hazards are taken out of the public water system. So thank you for bringing this up. I appreciate that you are each looking at the research and that you're advocating and going to vote against water fluoridation because you care about each of our kids and you want to make sure that they have healthy brains for the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kevin Hahn, followed by Richard Webb.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Kevin Hahn. I'm a dentist here on Merritt Island. I've been a dentist for over 20 years. I'm sure that everybody in this room has best intentions for the community, especially the kids, most vulnerable of our populations. I am not anti-fluoride. I have it in my practice, but I use it as a targeted intervention. I do not recommend fluoridating our water system. The biggest reason, and I never thought that I would have to use this data again in my life, dose does matter, as most of my colleagues have stated. Early in my career, two of my colleagues and I wanted to do our own study. And it was a fairly rigorous one that we undertook. And it was to determine the levels of fluoride at various times over a period of time. And the range was 0.001. all the way up to 5 parts per million. The dose matters. I don't know if that's here. That was not in this county. But I would recommend not fluoridating. The science, the new information that we do have is compelling. There has never been a great study, in my opinion, to show harm. There should be, but we don't know whether it does or not. Risk versus benefit is a real thing. Fluoride does harden your teeth. I use it daily on the patients that ask me to, and that I educate them on it. I'm born and raised in a little town south of Grand Rapids. A lot of Michigan represented here. Everybody got out of the snow and the cold. I had 0 groundwater, fluoride. We had well water. And luckily, I've never had a cavity in my life. So if we're talking anecdotal, well, there's another one for you. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Richard Webb, followed by Dr. John Bailey.
Hi, Richard Webb. I'm one of your customers. We're here because it's about the big picture, making America healthy again. We're all in favor of making America healthy again, right? And you've got some amazing people here that have talked about so many of the aspects of fluoride and getting it out of this system because it is killing people. Yeah, okay, the amount makes a difference, but the metabolism makes a difference too. Some people can metabolize the toxins and get rid of them. Other people can't. And I don't know any studies that have been done there, but I know that a court spent 7 years reviewing the evidence. And after 7 years of fighting back and forth, they came out with the real science, and the real science says it's a problem. You got a bunch of opinions back here backed up by nothing. Did anybody send you any current science? By the way, I apologize for filling your emails with real science, but that's what we're here to make decisions on, right? There's another thing in making America healthy again. Do you know you can get rid of the chlorine too? You can use chlorine dioxide, and the benefits of that are that it doesn't create side byproducts that are carcinogenic and toxic. It's actually good for you. And you don't have the problems with the other ways of cleaning the water. So the next salvo is going to be some really good information on using chlorine dioxide to clean the water. I think that you have an opportunity here to lead the nation along with Palm Bay. They're doing a great job. Oh my goodness, they're doing a great job. And I think your water department here is probably on top of it too. And I'm intending to talk to some of your folks because they will, I believe, be interested in doing the best job for us they can. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you. Dr. John Bailey, followed by Thomas Hartman, then followed by Lynn Hartman. We're almost there.
My name is John Bailey. My office address is 917 South Wickham Road. I have provided dental
Hey,
services.
sir, can you speak in the mic? We
Oh,
can't hear you.
certainly.
Thank you, sir.
My name is John Bailey, and my office address is 917 South Wickham Road. I have provided dental services in my private practice and various volunteer clinics for 40 years. I have a direct financial interest in the issue before us. If fluoride is removed from your water supply, my patient visits will increase in number and in cost. The eventual sale value of my practice will increase. But I'm here tonight to suggest to you that it is not in the best interest of your citizens. The science behind the effectiveness in decreasing tooth decay has not changed since the last time this council considered the issue in 2019. There's lots of information in your packet, and the other dentists here tonight have also discussed it. There have been a number of epidemiological studies around the world looking at fluoride and its possible relationship to changes in neurological development and thyroid development. Most of these were not true research studies and often did not consider the difference between natural fluoride and manipulated fluoride when you add it to it. Natural fluoride, when you look at mineral-rich waters, often contains heavy metals such as arsenic, selenium, and lead. When you add with the fluorosilicic acid, you're not getting that stuff. Now, you have an objection to fluorosilicic acid, I respect that. But the groundwater fluoride is not the way to go, very clearly. In August of 2024, the National Toxicology Board, which is funded through the NIH, reviewed these studies, and there were 74. I think that number was mentioned earlier, and clearly states, the study, that they found no health risk at the recommended maximum fluoride level of 0.7. And in fact, there were no health risks noted below 1.5 parts per million, which is twice the recommended maximum dose of fluoride. There was a moderate confidence level risk of a 1.6 drop in IQ. Okay, so fluoride can affect it if you increase from 1.5 to 2.5, but that is 4 times the maximum dosage. If you go 4 times the max dose of a medicine, bad things are likely to happen, whether it's Tylenol, a heart medication, or fluoridated water. You cannot quadruple the dose and expect to get good results. With all due respect, there was a comment about we don't medicate for vitamin D. It's fat soluble. It won't dissolve in the water. We put it in the milk. We put iodine in the salt. We put fluoride in the water because it helps you at that dose. I'm asking you to consider the decision. A lot of people have spoken about a lot of things. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thomas Hartman, followed by Lynn Hartman.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for the opportunity. Give my point of view on this. I'm a customer. I'm Thomas Hartman. I live at 325 Melbourne in Banyan Way, Melbourne Beach, and I'm a customer of the water department. And I object to the addition of fluoride to the water because fluoride is a drug, has been explained, and doses is important, as also explained before. And only a doctor can prescribe the correct doses for me, and I don't want the city to act as my doctor, and therefore would like this practice to be stopped. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Lynn Hartman, followed by Vanessa Ferguson.
Hi, I live in Melbourne Beach. A lot of passion has been expressed here tonight. Some of the dentists were saying that they have patients that have terrible cavities, little kids, and I suppose they were saying that they are still drinking the water that contains the fluoride. So I didn't quite understand their point there. I raised the children for years in Europe. One other dentist mentioned that the World Health Organization is really for fluoride in the water, but it's not in the water in Italy or Germany. We drank the tap water in Berlin. It was great, and it didn't contain any fluoride. I was pregnant and raised kids that gave birth there, the kids never had any cavities. We heard a lot about people saying that they didn't have cavities because of the fluoride in the water here. But if you look on an international scale, this isn't true. You have plenty of people who don't drink the fluoride, and they don't have cavities. So if y'all wouldn't mind, if you could leave it out of the water. I mean, I think vitamin C is extremely healthy for everyone, but I don't want that in the water. I personally can't take citric acid. I take a different type of vitamin C. So even if I did want vitamin C in the water, I would want to look at the source of the vitamin C or the source of the fluoride, and I would want a high quality one. So uh, let's not make that decision for us anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Vanessa Ferguson, followed by Tanya Samuels.
Hi, Council. Hi, Council, men and women. Thank you for this time. My name's Vanessa Ferguson. I'm a registered nurse. I also am a product of being born here at the, it was Melbourne Hospital way back when. And so I have had exposure to fluoride all my life and went to regular dental appointments, and I did not have the same experience. I have quite a few dental cavities. I went quite frequently to my dentist to get my teeth fixed, and I go tomorrow to get a crown fixed from all my childhood cavities. So it didn't help me. I got I was a proponent of fluoride because I got my veneer coating put on and all those things. So I'm also concerned about the dosage because dosage does matter. And so we all do drink different amounts. We do absorb it through our skin, which is our largest organ. We all do metabolize things differently. And so we aren't going to respond to it the same. So if so many are still having cavities with fluoride, there's other reasons people get cavities and it's not just fluoride's going to fix it. So I think I would like to have it removed from our water. I'm concerned about our water. Anyways, there are a lot of toxins, and that does concern me. I do take care of children, and so I see a lot of different effects, and I am concerned for cancer and other problems that creates. And I do thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Tanya Samuels, followed by Betty Hunt Webb.
Hello, my name is Tanya Samuels, and I'm the president of REACT and the Autism Foundation. I'm here today not just as a concerned citizen, but also as a mother. I have two children, one with a learning disability who struggles with and another with a child who struggles with a chronic illness. Every day, I pour my heart and soul into ensuring they have the best possible chance to thrive. I meticulously scrutinize food labels, avoiding harmful additives, and prioritizing wholesome ingredients. I do everything in my power to create a healthy environment for them at home. But there's only one crucial element that I can't control, and that's our water supply. We are told that fluoride in our water is safe and beneficial for dental health, but I urge you to consider the body of evidence that suggests otherwise. Studies have shown that fluoride can cross the blood-brain barrier and accumulate in the brain, potentially impacting cognitive development. A study published in The Lancet in 2014 classified fluoride as a developmental neurotoxins alongside lead, arsenic, and mercury. These findings are deeply alarming for any parent, or especially a parent like me. I already face daily challenges in supporting my child's health and development, and the thought of something as fundamental as our drinking water could be contributing to their struggles is simply unacceptable. I do understand the intention behind water fluoridation is to improve dental health, but at what cost? Are we willing to risk the neurological development of our children for a potential and arguably debatable reduction in cavities? There are other safer ways to promote dental hygiene. I want to thank you all as members of this council for prioritizing and listening to our concerns for health and the well-being of our children. We all have a responsibility to protect them from harm, not to expose them to it. Please reconsider taking fluoride out of our water. Give parents like me a peace of mind knowing that the water coming from our tap is truly safe and nurturing for them all. Thank you.
Betty Hunt Webb, followed by Dr. Alexis Herbeck.
Hi, Betty Hunt Webb, Melbourne resident.
I think all that fluoride caused me to shrink. I'm a certified dental assistant, a certified registered dental hygienist with a BS degree. I used to be a preventive dental program manager at Patrick Air Force Base. I taught dental hygiene and dental assisting at both Eastern Florida State College and at Middlesex Community College outside of Boston, Massachusetts. 47 years. That's how long I was in the dental profession. And I have noticed a little something. Sometimes dentists are resistant to change. I found that with continuing education. I found it with wearing masks and gloves. I found it with adopting digital x-rays. I found it with the discontinuing the use of mercury fillings. And I found out today that they're still using mercury fillings at Patrick Air Force Base, which is now the Space Force Base, but they're putting that in our military. I started my dental career with no personal protective equipment. We didn't know about that then. No masks, no gloves. I used to mix mercury fillings with a silver alloy by hand, use my bare hands with a gauze to squeeze the mercury out, and then play with the mercury. The use of adult alcohol mouthwashes has not been mentioned. There was a big phase where Listerine was used. It turns out there's a specific bacteria on your tongue that is responsible for heart health. If you carpet bomb your oral microbiome with Listerine, you are damaging your heart. People say there's no health risk to fluoridated water. Tell that to my thyroid. I did not improve my thyroid even with medication until I added supplemental iodine to it. One of the other health issues that has not been mentioned, but I know at least 5 people who have had this problem, is cystic acne. One of my friends, when she finally got reverse osmosis and got all the fluoride out of her house, out of her body, she finally had beautiful skin. I was taught that fluoride did not cross the placental barrier. We see how science has changed. My kids, age 30 and 33, are cavity-free. They grew up in the Boston area without fluoride in the water. I've treated 2 girls in the same family. One had great personal hygiene, but had lots of cavities. Her other sister didn't even brush her hair, let alone her teeth, but had no decay at all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Alexis Herbeck, followed by Dr. Gary Herbeck.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Alexis Herbeck. I am a licensed dentist here in the state of Florida, and I also have a bachelor's in behavioral and cognitive neuroscience. So this is really kind of my bag. When I became a dentist, I took an oath, and that oath was do no harm. Because of that oath, I am here today. There is a substance in our water supply that is corrosive, potentially toxic if ingested in high enough quantities, and is fatal if inhaled. It is a byproduct produced in a combustion reaction such as TNT demolitions and fireworks. According to the WHO, 236,000 people a year lose their lives to excessive inhalation of this substance. This substance is DHMO, also known as dihydrogen monoxide. It's water. It's water. The point that I'm making is anyone can dress up anything, even something as inert as water, and make it sound absolutely terrifying. A lot of people have brought up the most recent study by JAMA, published last week. I want to bring up the National Toxicology Program's findings on this. The summary said, and I quote, "It is important to note that there were insufficient data to determine the low fluoride level of 0.7 milligrams per liter currently recommended for U.S. community water supplies has a negative effect on children's IQ. The NTP has also found no evidence that fluoride exposure has had any adverse effect on adult cognition. The amount of fluoridated water you would have to drink to reach a toxic dose, 300 liters a day for a 165-pound person. You would die of water intoxication well before reaching that limit. As Dr. Patel stated earlier, the dose makes the poison. We have irrefutable proof that fluoride being removed from our water system will cause harm to our patients and our people. I can tell you about the 2 million ER admissions for dental infections a year. I can tell you about the thousands of days of school missed from these students due to dental pain. I can tell you about my own personal experience in non-fluoridated communities in the research and in the public health work that I have done in my life with children whose teeth are falling out of their mouth. I had one child before he even sat down in my chair was sobbing his eyes out, and he apologized to me. He said, "Ma'am, I am so sorry for crying, but this is the worst pain I have ever been in my entire life." How do you fix a brain when that's the life that child has to live? How do you fix that? Okay, I am not here for me. I could be at home in bed. Y'all probably want to be home in bed, but I could benefit from being home in bed financially, because by taking the fluoride out, you're going to give me more work to do. But that's not the vow I took. The vow I took when I entered this profession was do no harm. I'm here for the underserved and underrepresented who will be harmed by this measure if we remove fluoride. I'm here for our children, our grandchildren, everybody that will be directly harmed from this action. I implore you, please do not remove what is inarguably one of the greatest public health measures that our great country has ever seen, based on unsupported and unsubstantiated claims. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Dr. Gary Herbeck,
I did it already. I got to keep up.
followed by Deanna Cardi.
It's difficult trying to follow your daughter, especially when she speaks as well. Good evening, council members. Thank you for staying so late. This is very unusual. It shows your dedication to this, which is a really important topic, as you can tell from the fervor of all the people who have been here tonight. I'm stunned and pleased, even for the people that I'm in opposition with, that they are doing what we should do as American citizens, be able to talk to each other. I'm Dr. Gary Herbeck. I've been practicing in Merritt Island since 1981. I've been doing dentistry for over 50 years. And I've been the past president of Brevard County Dental Society, Central District Dental Association. I was on the board of trustees for the Florida Dental Association for 10 years. And our state dental journal, today's FDA, I was a scientific editor and the editor-in-chief. I've reviewed hundreds and hundreds of articles considering water fluoridation, contamination of water, how things affect the human teeth. I can tell you truthfully, tonight though, those who desire to discontinue water fluoridation have been presenting you with the most amazing collection of pseudoscience and misinformation I've ever seen. I've read so many journal articles. I've seen what's there. I've seen the errors, and it is so easy to select some specific something and be able to turn it into something else. So many people have learned how to do that. And none of these articles that the folks that have spoken tonight against water fluoridation would have matched our scientific standards for publication. Because when you publish like that, you have an obligation to your readers to give them accurate information. Many of the journals that have been quoted tonight have no such reputability and no such accuracy that they can stand on. If you want to perform your due diligence tonight, my suggestion to you is to table this resolution to the next meeting. It's obvious you've been presented with so much information here tonight. How can you manage to go through it? Its fervor is not a substitution for information or for truthfulness. You owe it to your constituents. This is a huge decision you're making tonight. This is huge. You owe it to your constituents to do it with the most information you can and with due diligence. Thank you.
Thank you. Deanna Cardi, I believe it is, followed by Pierre Cloutier, indeed.
Good evening or morning or thank you. The federal court's finding that fluoride is associated with neurotoxic effects, particularly reduced IQ in children, amplifies concerns about public health risk and fluoridation. These findings support the recommendation to abolish the fluoridation program and a careful reassessment of the legal risk under Florida statutes 859.01 and 381.026, which could expose the city to liability for administering a medical treatment without informed consent and exposing residents to hazardous substances. Our Surgeon General has issued guidance recommending against fluoride for all municipal water statewide. Our state is now up to 36 counties with fluoride being removed. It is illegal to medicate people through a municipal water system. The chemical composition of the substance being used to fluoridate the water is this hydrofluoric acid. Actually has a picture on the packaging of a skull and bones and says danger. And then I have the actual safety data sheet here. And on it, it says may be corrosive to metals, harmful if swallowed, toxic if in contact with skin, causes severe skin burns. So we are drinking, cooking, bathing, washing hands, swimming in this toxic water several times a day, especially our skin being a sponge. I do not consent. I am fortunate to have a whole house filtration system that does remove fluoride and other chemicals, but unfortunately others don't have that luxury. Please do the right thing and stop medicating people without their consent. Thank you so much.
Pierre Cloutier, followed by Stefan Hartman. We're almost there.
Hi, my friend Pierre, he already spoke. I'm Stefan Hartman, Melbourne, Florida. I'm a PA and owner of Iron Drip Primary Care, a functional medicine practice. Functional medicine practice, my job is to find out the root cause of illnesses. So in my course of practice, I found a lot of hormonal disruptions, specifically hypothyroidism is pretty much the norm when I see a lab work rather than the exception. Everyone has low thyroid function. So this has led me to do a retrospective practice analysis where I've actually looked at the iodine levels in my population. So we actually measured 179 iodine values. We looked at urine iodine values, and we found that 50% of our population, even by WHO criteria, meet moderate iodine deficiency. And some patients have severe iodine deficiency. We also looked at serum levels. We found similar in the serum with a median level of about 40 in the serum, where the reference range is 40 to 100. And then we also did the iodine challenge test, where we looked at the fluoride excretion rates when you give them a loading dose of iodine. And these patients will also excrete toxic levels of fluoride and bromide in the urine. So we found that no one is sufficient in iodine. Many meet WHO criteria for iodine deficiency. And this is causing some problems potentially, as many have spoken, and I'm not going to elaborate that on. And I'm going to leave that with you all for tonight, and thinking about, of course, removing the fluoride in the water, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Stefan Hartman? At 10? Okay, I apologize. Mila Bower, followed by William Bell. And then followed by the last speaker, Tara. Huh? No Mila?
My name is Mike Bamer. You look like Milo.
I'll be Milo for today. Let's see. Thank you. My name is Mike Bamer, and I want to thank you all for being here so late. I have experience appearing in front of boards, and I know it's very hard for you guys with your schedule tonight. Thank you. My name is Mike Bamer. I'm president of Melbourne Pharma. I've been a pharmacist for 36 years, involved in pharmaceutical research and development. And I can tell you, I'm also a diplomat of the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. One of the things I would suggest is that when we say do no harm, as a dental practitioner, we have to take that beyond the dental training and consider there's other medical harms that lie outside of the scope of dental practice. So just because this is a dental concern for the reason it was put in there, I don't think the dentist should be deciding what should be in there, because it's a broader thing that affects everybody. Dental care is super important. I don't deny that. I believe that fluoride is good for teeth in the developing children. I agree with all that. But there's also a lot of other drivers of this. So when you look at what causes these things, what I would like to say is I'm an expert in mitochondrial therapies. Mitochondria are affected by fluoride because, so mitochondria are the little cell, the drivers of your cellular energy, right? This is what a lot of this in the press today, and a lot of these forever chemicals affect your mitochondrial function. Your mitochondrial function causes chronic inflammation when it's damaged. So when you look at fluoride and mitochondria, fluoride disrupts the balance between fission and fusion in the mitochondria, damages the respiratory chain, increases reactive oxygen species, decreases mitochondrial membrane potential, alters mitochondrial calcium regulation. Okay, these lead directly to neurodevelopmental conditions. the reasons that we're using antioxidant therapies and mitochondrial therapies in neurological diseases and organic brain diseases is for this reason. So the chemicals that we are ingesting, including fluoride in the water, but including many other things that are in our food and other chemicals, add together to disrupt mitochondrial function, and it's a primary driver of all chronic diseases because it affects your exposure memory system. Your genetic exposure memory system controls what your body operates off genetically every day, and it looks at your body's intake of all these things every day. So that's one thing I would say. Mitochondrial function is a big thing. We shouldn't have the fluoride in the water. If I can navigate my notes. Okay, I would also like to say that fluoride doesn't replace primary dental care. You know, I mean, if there's trouble with primary dental care, it may fluoridating the water for all people would be like giving everybody blood pressure medicine in the water because some people might get blood pressure problems or something. It just doesn't make any sense to me. When they say do no harm, that means do no harm overall, and mitochondrial function is a form of harm. Again, I would also say for $5, anybody can get the fluoride treatment they want.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, sir. William Bell, followed by last speaker, Shira. I'm sorry, Carmatero, sorry.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for staying up. I'll try to keep this brief because I know we're all getting a little bit delusional with the hour. I want to say thanks to everybody for coming out here and, you know, saying your own personal opinion, whether it's because of the things you've experienced or because of your clinical practice on both sides of the issue. And I want to thank you all for listening, everybody. I know this is a very tough thing for you all to sit through. You're trying to listen to experts. You're trying to listen to your own citizens who all have very strong opinions about something that is a public health measure. This is something that you are adding to the water for the benefit of your citizens. We talk a lot about autonomy, and autonomy is an extremely important thing. It's one of the most important medical ethics that we have, and we all value it tremendously. But the reason we have public health measures is because there are indications where the benefits outweigh the risks and outweigh the infringement on autonomy of our citizens. We have 75 years of water fluoridation, and we have seen tremendous success. It's been one of the most successful health measures we have ever instituted, so much so that it falls under that old axiom that our most successful public health interventions become the ones that we forget why they were necessary in the first place. And everyone has been talking about Palm Bay and their lack of water fluoridation. Just the other day, as an oral and maxillofacial surgeon, I've been practicing in Satellite Beach for the last 4 years, take call over at Holmes Regional Medical Center. I saw for the very first time an 8-year-old boy with a lower first molar that had given him a submandibular abscess. It took 3 weeks for him to find somebody who could treat it, so it became very, very bad. The reason it took so long to find someone who would treat it, no one had even considered the diagnosis because we do not see that at that age because the only tooth that can do it is the lower first molar that's only been in his mouth for 12 months. I had to take this boy to the operating room and open up his neck to fix his problem. We almost had to do a trach because he had so much trismus and could not get a fiber optic intubation down his nose. This is anecdotal. This is not the science that you should be listening to in making this decision. I'm just saying there are indications that these things can be incredibly harmful. We're not just talking about cavities and getting fillings. We're talking about things that can be fatal to young children. We're talking about things that have large systemic effects on the rest of the body. And so we have to consider the fact that we know that fluoride is helpful, and we know that there are populations in this community that can only be reached by that intervention through water fluoridation. If we had other methods of doing so, we would happily employ them. But we simply do not have the resources. It would be much better if we could eliminate sugar from the diet, if we could eliminate all sorts of problematic behaviors, putting babies to bed with bottles in their mouths, not getting enough toothbrushing. The patients that we see tend to come to see us as an emergency because they did not come to see us when they were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. We cannot change that directly. All we can do is give them the only intervention that we know is beneficial to them and that the science has not yet shown is actually harmful. The science evolves, and we should never be considered to have settled science. It is important to look at all the literature. It is important not to throw out terms like junk science, but it is also important to recognize that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And last speaker, Shira. Last but not least.
Definitely not the least. Thank you so much for everybody being here. I'm a local, citizen. I own businesses here. I have 3 children. I'm an all-natural mother. I did everything through all 3 entire pregnancies to be all natural, all organic. I breastfed for collectively probably 6 years between all 3 of them. I did a natural home birth, and I'm sad to say that I had to birth my children in fluoride, and that each of my pregnancies had to go through that. My 2 children were here with me earlier, and they really wanted to speak. They're 9 and 11 years old. They really wanted to use their voices to speak out for the children. Um, and unfortunately, it's a school night, so I had to bring them home. But the fact of the matter is in no way, shape, or form is it ever okay to do anything to anybody without their consent, especially medicating them. And this is something that you all must take out of the water. I actually think it's kind of funny that it's even a debate, because at the end of the story, you are universally held, by universal law to not continue this. This should have never been done. I understand that maybe a long time ago that was the idea, that this was healthy, but I can't even believe the amount of doctors that are here today that are actually agreeing that it's okay to administer medication without anybody's consent. That is highly disturbing, that in 2025, they can actually come up here and try to tell us that. Even the other thing that really that should bother a lot of people here, is that yes, the poor, a lot of them probably couldn't even be here tonight because they probably couldn't afford gas to get here. And the fact that they think it's okay to medicate them without their choice because they're poor, because they can't afford medication, doesn't mean you give it to them anyways without their consent. So at the end of the day, this must stop, and there will be serious repercussions. There probably already are for the amount of damage that was done. And, my children, if you would like me to send their medical bills to you, I could do that tomorrow. They go to Beachside Smiles, and they have pages worth of dental work that they've had to have cavities pulled. And the fluoride definitely didn't help them there. But they also have some mental issues, and we have a lot of other issues because of it.
Okay, thank you. All right, that was the last speaker. I'll close the public comment section and bring back to council. I just really want to say thank you to everyone that came out, all the doctors on both sides, the residents. The fact is, and thank you, council, for being here. This is the latest meeting we've ever had. Our staff, thank you very much. I mean, this is something very important, very important. So, you okay? She's okay. So, and I want to end on this, and I'm just going to give to my fellow council members. I think I will stand with like there's both sides, and you had professionals from both sides. You heard doctors for and against, and that right there. When I spoke to the state surgeon general, he said there's more and more science coming out, and like he said in our phone call today. The previously considered benefit of community water fluoridation does not outweigh the current known risk, especially for the special populations like pregnant women and children. We should give our residents informed consent. I mean, they have a right to say no to something.
Right.
We shouldn't be mass medicating one thing. And a couple things that was said by some of the speakers. Fluoride being a mineral, hydrofluoric acid. We heard about arsenic and lead. If you were to look at the MSDS, that is what is in the hydrofluoric acid. That it isn't lead, arsenic, etc. That's in there. So I just think we got in this mess many years ago in the 60s from the state, our public health professionals, our surgeon generals, the Florida, the health department. They recommend we stop now, and I think we should do that. And I'm going to leave it to my council.
Mayor?
Go ahead, ma'am.
I'll jump in. Um, At the last version of this, I did vote to take the fluoride out of the water, and I stand by that position. And I continue that position tonight. I think that, yes, fluoride does help with the development of the teeth, but I think there are other ways to mitigate that, because the majority of the population that is before us, it's harmful. And that's just my own personal opinion. And so I stand by it, but I do think that we should help the community with trying to find those mitigating ways to help the developing teeth. So education in the school system. I'm a school teacher. Uh, we we do that all the time with, stop, drop, and roll, and all the different ways that we help our citizens and our young people make their way through life. So that's my stance.
Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Hanley.
I've taken people to the Florida, Florida Dental Society's Mercy of Motion. I don't know if any of you have ever gone there. It is where people here in the state of Florida can go for 2 days and get dental work done. I went there and I volunteered. And one of the things when I first got on council is you guys bombarded me to take out fluoride water. And then I went over to the dental society and I sat there and I learned and I watched people. And I was working, volunteering there. And a lot of you say, oh, it's the fluoride. And I saw a lot of these people like in Palm Bay, they're well waters. Well water people don't get fluoride and they go to the dentist a lot more. It is well researched that they go to the dentist more and they have more problems. And they have problems later on in life. I've had friends that have lived on well water and they said, look at my teeth. I'm 40 years old and I'm getting all my teeth taken out because I didn't have the fluoride in it. And the dentist, I've got to say, the dental society sat there and gave me an education about it, and showed me things, showed me slides and different things. And taking out the fluoride, it's not fluoride in the water is not the silver bullet. It's not going to stop every single cavity. And the dentist over there that said it wasn't going to stop every cavity. And I don't understand when people say if somebody's ADHD, it lowers their IQ. Where did that come from? I've never heard that before in my whole life. That if you got ADHD, you have a lower IQ. When you're quoting those things, I've never heard that. So if you go to the dental society, and I would recommend some of you that's saying that doesn't work, please, in March in Daytona, I wrote it down, at Mainline High School in March 21st and 22nd, go look at what goes on there. Volunteer. And you see what goes on in their mouths. And they'll show you what's going on. Who had good dental care? Who had the fluoride treatments? I believe we need to keep it in.
Okay. All right, Ms. Bassett.
So I see both sides of it. I understand that fluoride is good for your teeth. People who have like thyroid issues, all these other issues, they're blaming it on the fluoride, but we don't know if it came from the fluoride. So it's really hard to say that it was from fluoride, but maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. The other side of it is a lot of people are saying, well, I had fluoride my entire life and I've got this PhD in this and I'm super smart, and which is awesome. But so normal people might be here, you're here, but you could be here. You don't know. We don't know. My main concern is that we didn't give people consent. And I got an overwhelming amount of people that emailed saying, we don't want it. So we really shouldn't be giving it to people that don't want it. If they start noticing their teeth are getting funky, then they can handle it the way they want to handle it. So I'm voting to take it out.
Anybody else? Thank you. We have, good. Vice Mayor.
So I went into this meeting open-minded. I wanted to make sure that I was getting all the facts. I read up on it on my own research, but wanted to make sure I heard from the people as well. I think it's very, very important. One thing that didn't necessarily come up, it probably would have anyway, but something that I had asked some folks in the dental industry. I'm a nonprofit professional, if y'all don't know. And something that's important to me is what are we doing in our nonprofit community to help our kids? This is at the crux of it. I know we've talked about a lot of adult issues, things of that nature. The rationale for why it's in our water is about the children, okay? So at the end of the day, I asked them, what are we doing for the children in Melbourne in a nonprofit charitable fashion on this? They said that they partner with Eastern Florida State College and go do a clinic there, as well as doing something else in, I believe it's Endeavor, but both of these clinics, both of these things are in Cocoa. There's not, to my knowledge, anything that we're doing for the children of Melbourne. There's a lot of, basically, there's a lot of children from poor families in Melbourne who can't make it to Cocoa. And I'm going to strongly encourage those from the dental practice, those from the medical practice, and those individuals in our community to really, if this is something that's important to you all, we need to focus not on just the center of our county. We need to focus on the city of Melbourne. We're all here in Melbourne. We care about those children. Now, as far as what we've talked about today, I'm going to also agree that we're not asking for people's consent when we're doing this. We are just not doing that. And it's not our place to choose to medicate people. I believe that that's individuals' choices. And that's where I also believe that that nonprofit piece and that community piece comes in. I've been harping a lot about our communities to come together on things, homelessness. This counts as well. I really am counting on you guys to work with us to find ways for our community to come together and help these kids. Lastly, the byproduct is an issue for me. I did some research on this hydrofluoric acid. I'm going to probably mispronounce it. The fact of the matter is, not a fan of byproducts. There's a more pure way for our city to do it if we were going to do it. So as it currently stands, I'm voting against adding fluoride to the water. However, if for whatever reason this passes, I'm immediately going to make sure that we are going to be using the most healthy, most safe version. I don't know what that is. I don't know what it costs me. I asked direct staff on that, but this is public health and we're going to talk about public health, but that's my vote right now.
Mayor, I'll make this real brief. The principle of informed consent is central to this debate. It argues that individuals should have the right for informed decisions about their health treatments, including the exposure to fluoride. If I think about my own life, I have a birthday coming up next week, be 52. I think about where I grew up and cavities, fluoride in the water. But now I have, twin flossers, you have rinse, you have so many different ways to get fluoride. And then been in the military and, you have the root canals and you remove your wisdom teeth. So there's so many more options compared to when they first made this decision. So I would much rather have people have the right to make their own choice. So I'm going to vote to remove the fluoride and give it back to the people.
Okay. Anything else? Do we have a motion then?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to remove fluoride.
And I'll second that motion. So we have a motion to remove fluoride from our water. City Manager?
Well, I can wait until after the vote, but I'll wait until after the vote.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to remove fluoride from our water. If you want to immediately, I think the question is we're almost out and we'd have to buy more and it's going to run us about $170,000 a year just for the acid. So are we using the little bit up we got?
So there's-
Remove it immediately.
Go ahead.
I don't want to step on your toes. My understanding is that there's about a 4-month supply. And if the motion and vote is to immediately stop supplementing our water, our treated water with fluoride, there'll be a cost to dispose of that, right? That's not a surplus material that we'll be able to.
Well, there's always a cost, but I looked at it. The cost
Okay.
would be recouped from not buying it again.
Again, right, this is not us trying to leverage one way or the
Oh,
other.
no,
It's
and I
just
understand, you know, again, we're.
for your understanding, so that you understand the implications of the motion. There will be, if the direction to city staff is to immediately remove fluoride, there will be a cost associated with disposing of the current supply of fluoride that the city has on hand.
Right, and the reason, and again, the reason we have to, the cost too, it is a hazardous chemical.
Mayor, I'd like to
I'm just saying.
I'd like to amend my motion to remove fluoride from the water proceeding
Immediately, and I'll second that motion. So we have a motion second,
Hold
and
on
I'll,
one second.
ma'am.
I just want to hear the city manager wants to say.
No,
Oh, okay.
a second. We have a motion, a second to remove fluoride from the water immediately. I'd like a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Bassett,
I want to know more about it. Sorry, but I
Yes or no?
guess, yes.
Okay.
Aye, and aye. Okay, she's an aye.
Councilmember Hanley,
Nay.
Councilmember Kennedy,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember LaRusso,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Newman,
Aye.
Mayor Alfrey.
And I vote aye, and that motion passes. Again, thank you everyone for coming out and sticking around. We're going to finish up this meeting. We are moving to item number 22, couple board appointments. We're done. So item 22A, Mr. McEwen.
We'll take care of this really fast, Mayor.
Hey, this is Jerry with On Point Wildlife Removal. If you think you might have critters in your attic like squirrels, bats, rats, or raccoons, give us a call today. We'll come out, we'll take a look, we'll give you a free quote to get them out, to seal up your home, and clean up whatever mess they left behind. We're locally owned and operated, and we're fully licensed and insured.